All right. I'm going to call to order the November 13th. Are we good, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Should I read you?
Recording, we're good.
Sorry, recording is
Oh,
hiding under more.
No, I recorded it. It's on recording.
Oh, it's not recording. Okay. So
restart scene, action. I'm calling to order the November 13th, 2025 meeting of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. I apologize for the slight delay. We were just waiting on our quorum. To bring our meeting to full order, we have to do a few procedural items. There are no remote members participating, so there is no vote for audibility. We do, however, have to take a vote for public comment time limitations. The ARB has to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during public comment periods. The public is allowed to comment after consent agenda items and after each action item as is standard ARB practice. I would look for a motion. Mr. Kalinsky.
I move that each member of the public have 3 minutes to speak.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Mangum as well as Ms. Orr. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. All right, this is a notification for all participants. The meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made available within the next 10 days. All right, next we start all our meetings with the reading of Statement of Purpose and Intent of Historic Overlay Districts, and Ms. Mangum has offered to do so. Ms. Mangum.
Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against destruction of or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of cultural, social, economic, political, architectural, or archaeological heritage of the county, to prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to assure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced.
Thank you, Ms. Mangum. All right, next on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to either approve the agenda as submitted in the packet provided or to amend it if you see so fit. Mr. Kalinsky.
A motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
There is a motion second. Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. All right. Just a reminder for applicants, please try to limit your presentation time to 8 minutes if this is your first submission. If you've been here previously for a full submission, please try to keep yourself to 3 minutes, focus specifically on the changes made to your application. All right, taking us into our agenda, we have an introduction and recognition of guests. Denise, do we have any folks to recognize?
No.
All right. We got you, Ms. Hammock. Welcome. All right, we have nothing on the consent calendar action items, so that takes us directly into our items for action. First on the agenda is ARB 2025 MV 00054 9517 Workhouse Way improvements. This is located within the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district. The applicant is proposing the installation of turf and exhaust hood vent at 9517 Workhouse Way. The exhaust hood and vent turf will match the previously approved installations at 9514 Workhouse Way. Mr. Sam Gray represents the project.
Thank you.
There you go, sir. The floor is yours.
Appreciate, and I can understand the traffic tonight. Anywhere close to Fairfax County Parkway,
Yes, that's where I
Bragg
was.
Road, 123 is a disaster right now. I mean, it's been that construction is making it crazy. So thanks for having me up here. We're my business partner, Sean Hunt, was here last month for the workshop. Had some questions. It didn't change the presentation whatsoever. My name is Sam Gray, obviously, co-owner. Drink Local LLC, Funnyman Brewing. We have 3 locations in the county now. We're looking to spread it right across the front of Workhouse Way, working with Workhouse Way on that program. We're doing exactly the same thing we did, that we went through the submissions that we did last, almost 2 years ago now for our sister building right across the boardwalk. Same vent system, same turf, same everything, will match exactly. If I can go right into the only question that Sean Hunt brought up to me that might be something for discussion was an extra part of grass that actually goes right along Workhouse Road, which is Workhouse Way, which is along the road and so on. So that grass actually reaches all the way around. And although I would love for it all to be turf, because it keeps me from having to make pathways or people make their own pathways across grass, there would be a weird transition between the grass turf interface. And if you can imagine what grass would look like and then stop and then turn right into turf, that would be a little unusual. So there was no way to stop it and have it look natural. So on the other side, we will just build pavers or a walkway for the people to be able to do it to not interfere with the grass. The main spot that the turf is going on is the spot where everybody hangs out. I mean, that's 100%. And on the other spot, it got transitioned from grass right away right into turf because it was a mud pit within a couple months. And the best part, if you've been by that area, is that outdoor seating out there. And the understanding that outdoor seating is a huge part. People love having the kids and the dogs and the people out there and sitting out there in the grass and outside on the beautiful days all the way up through December, January. And if you imagine put that much pressure on grass, it was tough. The grass that we're putting in is super high end, really nice stuff. It's about as good as you can get, and it matches exactly what's already there on the other side. So we can roll through it. If you guys remember, if you're here for the workhouse or have any questions for the workshop, if you have any questions, let me know, and hopefully I can address them, and we can go to whatever. Hopefully I answer whatever you have for them. You can, I mean, if you have any questions, you guys have seen this.
Okay. Well, if that's the presentation, I'll ask if any member of the public has any comments on this application. Not seeing any, I would look to our board members if they have any questions on the materials provided in the presentation.
One question regarding the letter from DHR about the additional units. It says, the condition that additional units are not placed within the same viewscape as the current vent installations, and the vents are removed and infilled once they're no longer used. It is DHR's opinion that there will be no adverse effects to historic properties. Be aware that more installations could cumulatively adversely affect historic properties. So as long as we include, I think as long as we include that, do you have any issue with including that condition in the thing? Satisfied with it?
I mean, if someone wants to make that a modification onto that, we concur or support DHR's position about no further additional units being added. That would be a perfectly reasonable motion for someone to make. And if there's any other comments or questions for the applicant. From my perspective, I appreciate the workshop session so that we can talk through it first. It makes it really easy to understand it conceptually. If there's no comments from any of the members, then I would entertain a motion. Mr. Kalinsky, you look like you were working on a motion right there.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 2025 MV 00054 located at 9517 Workhouse Way, Lorton, tax map 1064-010058 in the Lorton Laurel Hill MOA eligible district for the installation of turf and an exhaust hood vent at 9517 Workhouse Way, as submitted and presented at the November 13, 2025 ARB meeting, subject to the following modifications. That the applicant agrees to follow the DHR recommendations of no additional units or vents being placed on the same elevations, and that when no longer used, they will be removed and infilled. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the eligible requirements of the Memorandum of Agreement of the Lorton Laurel Hill Eligible District and Zoning Ordinance 3101 Historic Overlay Districts.
I forgot to get this part too.
Oh, the applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2025 MV 00054 as approved by the ARB on November 13, 2025.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Swan. I think got the hand up first. All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks.
Look forward to seeing the other place open.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Right, that takes us on to number 2 in our application agenda. That is ARB 2025 MB 00057 220 Martha's Road Addition, located at 220 Martha's Road in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. The applicant is proposing a new one-story courtyard addition and new carport addition. Ms. Christine Kelly represents the application. Ms. Kelly, so good to see you.
See you too. Good evening, everyone. I'm here with my clients, Jenna Benyones and Corey Mesh, and we are presenting the final design tonight for approval and would like to take you through the project. May we have the next slides, please? This is the plat showing the addition. One request that your board made of us the last time was to angle the carport to match the angle of the existing workshop in the front yard, and we have done that. That was one of the larger changes that we made for this presentation. And the next slide, please. These are just some photos to remind you of the existing house, the existing entry, the driveway. Keep going, and then the existing backyard where we'll be designing the new courtyard addition. The next photos, please. Just a few more shots. And the next slide, please. And the next one. This is the existing footprint. And the next, this is the proposed footprint with the courtyard addition and the new carport that we changed the angle to match the existing workshop that was in the front yard.
So I'll take you through the house. I've seen you all twice now. We've done 2 workshops with you all that have been super helpful. And then in our neighborhood, a lot of people are architects because they appreciate the mid-century modern architecture. So we have had multiple pass-throughs of architect friends to try to get all of the pieces to fit within our property line and the design, and have taken a lot of changes into account. So I'll come over here because it's a little bit easier. So what sparked our design and changes and things that were important is Corey and I both work from home. He retired from the military after 20 years, and I work in healthcare, and we are both enjoying not having to go to an office. So this house was meant to kind of be this nice haven and space to work from. And then we soon met our neighbors and fell in love with the community and decided, instead of doing a 2-story addition like we planned, that we will die in this house. So switched it to a 1-story addition. And then the other thing that we had to contend with is my parents are amazing and have obviously raised me and adopted Corey, and will probably have to live with us at some point when they're older. So we wanted a space that they could have their side of the house and we could have our side of the house and still be happy. So what we did was we moved our kitchen into the center. So that's really the middle and heart of the home. They would occupy this side when they're older. We would occupy this other side. And then we have beautiful sunsets. We're on the top of a hill. So we really wanted to take advantage of that west facing views that we have. So that's another reason we put the kitchen here. And you'll see in a bunch of the other pictures, we added a ton of windows to that side to take advantage of it. So this is a house that we can age in, have family in, and still appreciate the mid-century modern design thanks to all of your feedback that we have. So I guess we'll go to the next picture. And then Christine's my hype girl, so she'll chime in anywhere I forget things.
The roof plan just showing we have the flat roof on the carport, which was no change from our last presentation. And we have the butterfly roof on the rear primary bedroom addition, which was not a change from our last presentation. And the next slide shows the elevations. The front of the house with the carport to the left on the top elevation, and then the butterfly roof over the primary bedroom addition. And the next slide shows the elevation of the bedroom, the link and courtyard in the existing house. And we will be matching the tongue and groove siding as well as the shingle roof. And then the Holland Hills windows schedule. And then we also have the electrical and structural drawings included in the package. We will be requesting a special permit for the carport because it does ask for a reduction in the front yard setback. And we'll do that separately, and I think I have to come back for that approval from you. I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask Denise if we had already given approval for that special
No, it
recommendation for that.
No, it
or-
hasn't.
Okay.
We were waiting to get approval on the final design before starting that process.
Well, we could approve the application as designed, but it will run into other challenges which would require it to come back to us. So that obviously that's something for the board to think about when we look at this is if, and this frequently why they're done together is if we decide to provide our recommendation, it means we typically are comfortable with the design part and parcel, but that's, it's two actions one way or another. So just for context on that, but okay.
I'd be happy to answer questions.
Yeah, let me ask a proverbial question. If there's any member of the public that has any comments on this application, they'll show up one of these days. All right,
I'm
see.
sorry, I'm so confused.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interject.
No.
Sometimes when we have, this must be a different process, because we're not voting on two, it's not separated into two separate voting things.
Well, there is no request for us to provide a recommendation at this time for the zoning, the.
Okay, so that doesn't have to happen simultaneous to the design?
Does not.
Okay. So if we approve the design of the carport right now, it's implied that when the applicant comes back, we would vote to support the application for special.
I mean, it would be a strong indication we'd likely do so, but I can't guarantee that
Okay, I thought it
that
was
we would.
required that they filed those simultaneously with us, but I was wrong.
It's
Denise,
not required, but I think your, that assumption is sort of baked in if there is a special exception that's needed, or a variant. Do you know it's a special exception?
It is a special exception because we're not asking for more than a 50% reduction.
So does the special exemption with zoning require a different type of notification to the neighbors than this?
Yes.
Okay, that's what kind of clicked something for me, because they weren't, when they're filed at the same time, I'm not being very articulate. When they're filed at the same time, that helps neighbors become aware of it, and then they can come to this hearing and weigh in. Whereas we're weighing in on the design where the neighbors haven't been notified for this. I mean, yes, they could come and speak when it comes, it's a little bit chicken and an egg thing, is what I'm saying. So anyway, it sounds like it's all gonna get reviewed and all the Ts are gonna be crossed and the Is dotted, but it just seems like.
no, it's a good point that you're astutely noticing typically the trend is we have them simultaneously and we just break them into two actions, one for recommendation and one for approval. But as Denise said, it doesn't have to happen that way. But it does still put pressure on the ARB to consider that as we look at an application, because
then what if.
we will eventually be asked, at least in
Yeah.
Holland Hills, I know we'll get asked because Holland Hills typically follows those rules.
Also, if a lot of neighbors come and speak in opposition, then we may have rethought our design approval, since we weigh public input into our
And
decisions.
you may have different members here. Some of us may be absent, and
Yeah.
the ones who are absent tonight might be back. So
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily guarantee that
Right.
what we approve is going to be as.
Right, and I didn't start that application because I wanted to hear that you, I guess, liked the change of the carport footprint.
because you pay when you file, and that's, I think
It's
that's,
$1,023.
yeah, exactly. So if we were gonna kill it, then, well, why would you file and
Yeah.
go through all
That was
the
my-
priority
I was trying to hear
mail?
that you liked it somewhat and that before we applied.
Yeah.
Also, our neighbors are fine with it.
I was going to say, well, that was going to be my next question, just even though it hasn't gone through that step yet.
Yeah.
You sound like you've talked to some of your neighbors, so obviously, they'll obviously want to get notified, but
Right, and we've been through our local design review committee, which requires us to notify our neighbors, so all of the neighbors have seen the design.
okay.
And we have approval from them.
Okay.
All right, and that was going to be my follow-up question was about have they found out about the 6? You said you inherited some architect friends, which I feel like that's a package that you gain when you move to Holland Hills, is you are assigned a few architect friends if you're not an architect.
There's good and bad with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a double-edged
I didn't
sword.
say, I wasn't ranking it one way or the other. Okay.
Okay,
Miss-
thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
I have a question though, because we see you a lot. Was this the one that you had pulled, that you were coming for approval, but you pulled the carport off at one point?
We haven't come for approval, we've come for workshops.
Okay. Was that a
No,
different
that was a
project?
That was a different one. I thought
Golly.
that was a Randy Mars project. He took the carport off. I saw him,
Okay, all right.
yeah, for Gino Madrid and.
Okay, all right.
Obinsky.
Yeah,
took
he
the
saw that it
carport
wasn't
off.
gonna fly and he just took it off
Okay.
during the presentation.
It's too close to the street or something, yeah.
Any other?
Well, I always vote no for going outside, and so she knows that, but I'm one vote. But we don't have a whole lot to control the edges. I was just in a seminar today where they were talking about, do you allow, historic buildings to have additions that are larger, wider and taller and stuff, and, we do. And so the setbacks are sort of keep things contained, and I think that it messes with the beauty of Holland Hills if things are too close, and I don't know, but that's just my voice, so you know that. We've talked, so.
Any,
I think that when the very first workshop, we discussed how that front building was not original, but it was old. And at the previous owner, maybe had been a workshop or something, and I don't, it feels like a big ask to keep that workshop, which is an irregular thing, not usually seen in Holland Hills. I'm not saying it's not, what am I trying to say? When you add a carport on this particular site, when it already has this small building in front of the building, I think it chips away at the primary elevation's like significant view shed. So if you didn't have that shed in the front, maybe the carport would be okay. But if we're looking at your home and there's the carport and there's the shed, I mean, changing the angle doesn't kind of affect, it's still very cluttered when you look back at the building from the street with those three
Let me go back one slide.
Yeah,
three objects or three resources. And I don't know, you're expanding, the building is really changing. It's getting big and you've made thoughtful decisions. I'm not saying that you haven't made the right decisions in expanding it, but like just looking at your elevations, I'm like, wow, this building, the nature of this building is just really changing. It's doubling in size. And so then it's like, and now we have the carport, like, gee, can we just not have the carport? And then at least the front of the building, the historic resource could be retained from the street and you're getting all this stuff in the back. I mean, I know you want to reach for the moon, and while you're here, and I guess I'm saying is, no, I don't think you can have it all.
Well, the fact that the carport is pulled off to the side and it is constructed out of steel, so it would be as lightweight as possible, I feel like it's not impeding. If we can go one more slide forward. I'm sorry, the other way. One more again. It's over on the left. It's still leaving what the portion of the front elevation that you can see from the street is still
To the side.
visible.
There's going to be a car parked under it.
Yeah, right now
So
we're
it's not,
cars
and you're
are
showing
parked.
it like it's a tent.
Well,
But
where
no,
cars are
actually,
going here
you
is
don't need
in
a
front of the
carport.
house, so our goal is to move the cars to the side of the house. John Burns, and I think you were the one that said like the house should be the main feature. So coming up to our home, because of where the driveway is, the feature is our driveway. So we're gonna recut a new one to move it to the side, and then the cars would be under the carport rather than right in the front.
Of the driveway, please, as
Yeah, I think there's a
proposed.
The
picture.
current location of the cars obstructs the view of the house more than that.
Go back to the site, go back a few more,
Yeah,
keep going to the plat, to the first slide, I think.
It's not original, it's like the first owner's workshop. Yeah,
It's just an orphan building within there.
yeah.
And one more. Yeah, there we go. Here's.
Yeah, maybe you could point to where the driveway's going.
The plat is back one more. There we go. This is where the driveway is right now. So the cars are parked here in front. So the driveway will be moving to the left so that you're coming into the side and won't be parking in front of the house anymore. You'll be stepping off to the side.
The county's gonna allow you to move your curb cut?
We don't have a curb, and even if we did, it's only 10 grand.
But yes, we've moved a lot of them in Holland Hills, yes.
Okay, I thought that was difficult to get.
If you're near an intersection, it is, because you have to be a certain distance from an intersection, but this is they're on a straight street.
Well, I do agree that that is a better place for the driveway. So I can be proven wrong. Maybe it's no big deal.
Miss, are you good, Miss?
Yeah.
Okay, Miss One?
I do have some question, and I apologize in advance that I did not cut that part, or someone already asked that question. I see a lot of, all of the building elevation, that the grade is kind of dead flat. Is that true on this site?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
We have a flat site.
One of the few yards in Holland that's.
That was very unusual.
That's why, part of the reason why the pool is gonna work, I think. You don't see too many pools in Holland Hills either.
Right. Any other?
No.
So I've been here for, I think, all the workshops. I do appreciate how much it's evolved since the workshop. So I think as much as one can, less than an addition in here, I think you've been successful in that end. I have now made more trips to Holland Hills in the last few months with lots of free time, being unemployed fed. I think I'm happy you're not doing a two-story, because I actually think this is better, because it's not going to be as apparent to me. And I'm starting to come to terms with those types of changes. I think the relocation of the driveway is really the only way offsetting this garage with all the extra stuff that's going on that I think makes it work for me, with it just being an open space. And obviously cars are there sometimes, cars are not. You know, it's a very dense neighborhood with all the different things going on, and I've started to learn, and you're not building a ballroom, you know, so I'm actually,
Well, actually, it's not that they're not being a problem, it's that they're going through the public process today, so.
yeah, well, ooh, the layup there. But anyways, I think I am okay with it personally myself, so I'm happy to hear that the neighbors are okay with it, because that is probably my biggest concern. It'll be the question I ask when it comes back again for that recommendation question, because that is something I think I'm very sensitive to, and appreciate Ms. Orr's, adamantness about that. The setbacks are there for a reason. I think that public process and Mr. Kalinsky has put it very clearly, that you could have a different arrangement with the board here, and that is one of the risks that you run in that sense. But those are my few observations to have.
And one of the neighbors is a landscape architect who's not shy to give her opinion. But she
was like, it'll be great not to look at the back of your cars because her house is right in front
I
of
don't
ours.
think anyone in Holland Hills is shy about giving their opinion. I'm going to very blanketly say that. But anyways, that's, those are my only observations, unless there's any other comments.
You just, have you considered not having the carport?
Yeah.
Then obviously you want the carport. I think that's my
Because
biggest.
eventually I want a car.
That's-
And
Yeah, I just understand. I have to clean
Yeah, I
leaves
parked
off my
one
car
in my driveway.
every morning to find it, the past couple weeks. The one story versus the two, I think is a good factor. You're preserving the original house, even though it is kind of blocked by the orphan building out in front there. And you are adding more noise to the front elevation with with the carport. That's my concern there, but I also understand it moves the cars off the driveway and underneath generally. It is a very large addition, but I think it's pretty well handled. The way it's separated out from the house and out towards the back and the fact that it is not looming, not 2 stories. So I just wanted to see where your position was on that carport, because I think that's the biggest stumbling block for most everybody here.
I think we've needled you guys about it a few times, I feel like. I think everyone who's been here has asked about whether or not you're really attached to the garage. All right. Are there any other members with comments? If not, I would entertain a motion if one would be made.
Maybe just a question.
Yes.
Would an appropriate modification be, contingent on making it contingent on the special exception? Or is that already implied? I don't.
That seems like a reasonable.
It's
Okay.
implied, but you could
Okay.
reinforce
Okay.
it.
And I think it's called a special permit.
Special permit, yeah. Thank you for that clarification, Ms.
All the counties call it something different. It's special permit.
Ms. Mangum, that feels like you're going to craft a motion for me.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 2025 MB 00057 located at 2201 Martha's Road, Alexandria, tax map 0933040113 in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District for the proposed new 1-story courtyard addition and new carport addition as submitted and presented at the November 13th, 2025 ARB meeting, subject to the following modifications. That the approval of this design is contingent on the later approval after submitting your application for the special permit. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2025 MB 00057 as approved by the ARB on November 13th, 2025. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
A motion, is there a second?
I have a question. I'm not sure what that means.
They have, well, I think it would mean that if they don't get the special permit, then they would have to come back for modification to the design.
We're voting on the special.
So I was actually going to provide
have
a
to
friendly
rephrase it.
amendment,
Okay,
Ms.
sure.
Mangum, because we are only recommending approval to zoning for the special exception. We do not approve special exceptions. We only recommend.
Upon our
And since-
recommended approval.
Okay,
I was going to wait to do it as
Yeah,
an amendment.
that's not, that's
Pushing.
really
the button.
not saying anything
well,
to
I think
me.
because the makeup of the board, I think what I was hearing is concern about what if the board makeup is different the night of the special exception, or special permit request for recommendation, that it's possible that could not pass, which would force a reconsideration of the approval of the design.
Well, so why don't we just take it out of this approval and have them present the design of the carport when they apply for their recommendation for the special permit? Because otherwise, if we approve it today, it's like in the approved plans, and they would have to come and file an amendment to remove it from the approved plans.
And this is where, I don't know that we.
I
dealt with the
interpreted Ms.
situation
Mangum's motion as saying this approval still requires them to come seek our recommendation on that special permit, reminding them, because as we've run
It does
into.
But they
anyway.
have to.
Right.
Yeah, well,
The zoning
we've
board's
run
gonna
into the
enforce
problem
that.
where that doesn't always happen, where things don't always make it back to us. Not saying anything against Ms.
Kelly is
Kelly.
going to let this not come.
I mean, maybe it's just a formality to say I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that there would be a recommendation to approve the special permit. If, given that the makeup of the board may be different that night, or, sentiments may change, I don't know. But I think, to me, it just opens up the possibility this is not approved without reservation. So there is some reservation about whether the special permit would be recommended.
Procedure-wise, you've made a motion, and we don't seem to have a second for the motion at this current moment. So technically, the motion is not up for any action.
Okay.
So if there's no one to second it, technically, the motion is going to die unless someone intends to second Ms. Mancom's motion. Not hearing that, I would say that motion dies without
Okay.
a second, which means if we want to continue, there would need to be a new motion made, either without said modification or as Ms. Hammack has pointed out, a different variation on something there. I imagine, I'll ask the applicant, I don't know, Ms. Kelly, if you and your client are willing to entertain the prospect of seeking only approval of the design and not the garage at this moment and coming back for that later, because that's, I think, what Ms. Hammack was asking, or if you'd rather continue with the whole package and then just be coming back to us for the recommendation for the special exception.
I guess I would be fine to, it sounds like the carport isn't generally, like, I guess I don't want to file a special permit and then come back and have you deny it. That's, again, as you say, the chicken and the egg. I'd be happy to go there and come back but hearing tonight, it seems like you like the design, and I don't think I'd be surprised coming back that you choose not to approve it for the carport to go through with a special permit with the Board of Zoning Appeals. I don't know if I'm answering the question.
I mean, you could come back for just the carport and see how we vote and then file, right? And that way you wouldn't be wasting the fee for filing, and you would have all the board members potentially for a vote.
I see.
Of the
You'd like a
carport.
larger board here to vote on the carport?
I mean,
I
that's your,
think you're more likely to get an approval.
that's your prerogative though, Ms. Kelly, you and your client, because that if you all want this application to be voted on today, we can totally vote on it there. As long as I have a motion from a member to vote on it.
I think that we've worked hard to put it together, and it would be nice to have the vote on the whole application, then I could move forward with filing the special permit application. And if you want me to come back again, I'd be happy to, well, I think I need to come back again.
Yeah, well, regardless, if we voted to approve the application, you're going to be coming back for the special exception, special permit.
Special permit.
Yeah.
But even if we vote to not recommend approval, Board of Zoning Appeals could still approve it.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're just advisory, so.
We only get to vote to recommend approval.
Yeah.
Denise, you look like you have some wisdom to share.
Well, I'm wondering, rather than removing the carport and having them come back for the carport, would, just a thought, maybe a deferral at this point until the special permit comes back for your consideration, and then you all can vote on both things at the same time, which is typically the way this board operates. It's just a thought.
So that's an option too. That would be typically with deferrals, I usually ask the applicant if they want to seek a deferral. We could take a motion to defer. And we've got several motion options. I, as chair, I'm not supposed to make any of those motions. That's making it more complicated because I'm like Mr. Motion Maker normally. So apologies on that front, but we've had a few members have family issues, so.
But just a question then on the deferral, it requires them to, if they want to come back for an action, they would have to go ahead and file the $1,000.
Yeah, Ms. Kelly would still have to file that
And that's
request.
what they're trying to avoid. And so there's no way they get their money back if they don't get the special permit, or?
Well, they can come to the Architectural Review Board to review for the recommendation,
Okay,
just as every other applicant has come for the recommendation.
okay, before they file.
Before they file.
Okay,
Definitely talk with zoning though, make sure that I mean, I know you know to do this, but talk with zoning and make sure that you are within all of the parameters for that special permit.
Yeah, 7 of us.
So you need 6.
And then you need a majority.
Need 4.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm being asked procedural
And
questions.
there's still an open amendment, an open-friendly amendment that needs to be closed.
No,
The motion never made it. The motion died on the floor because it never got seconded.
Can I make a new motion?
Yes, just want to give you, I saw you conferring with your client, Ms. Kelly. Did you have any observations you wanted to share?
Well, we would like to, if we have to break it into two parts, have an approval tonight for the addition, and then I can do the carport separately if that would be easier for the board to manage.
That's, welcome to hear your motion, Mr. Kalinsky. What do you got for me, Steve?
All right, well, Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 2025 MV 00057, located at 2201 Martha's Road in Alexandria, tax map 0933040113 in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District for the proposed new one-story courtyard addition and the new carport addition, as submitted and presented at the November 13, 2025 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB 2025 MV 00057 as approved by the ARB on November 13, 2025. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 Historic Overlay District.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Mangum. I think we're going to do a roll call vote on this one. All right. Oh, you want me to start on that end? No, I want to go in one direction.
That was a motion for approval.
For approval as submitted.
Actually, I'll say yes.
Yes, Ms. Swan?
Yes.
Ms. Mangum?
Yes.
Mr. Kalinsky?
Yes.
No from Ms. Orr? No from Ms. Hammack? Yes from Mr. Daniel. The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for a exciting experience in parliamentary procedure.
You can join our architecture committee.
All right. That takes us on to ARB 2025 MV 00041, Laurel Hill Chapel Lighting. This is at 8475 Reformatory Way, in the Laurel Hill MOA eligible district. The applicant is proposing installation of 22 parking lighting poles and fixtures. Mr. Jack Perkins represents the application. Mr. Perkins, good to see you.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. It's good to be before you again this evening. I am happy to report that our tenant, South County Church, got their building permit late last month, and they are under construction inside the building, working on their fit out. So that's good news. We continue to work on the parking lot that will provide 100 spaces for them. We're about 2/3 of the way finished on the parking lot. We hope to have it face paved before Christmas. And tonight I'm here to present our parking lot lighting plan and proposal to you. So next slide, please. So we are using the same design guidelines, the same fixtures, the same poles that we have used throughout the community for the streets, for the neighborhood alleyways, and for the apartment parking areas. So all of this is consistent with what is already built out there. So from a design standpoint, we start with the Illuminating Engineering Society's recommended guidelines for outdoor parking in a suburban environment, and that recommends an average foot candle of 0.5 to 2 foot candles, somewhere in that range, which is a very low level of lighting. What you see here is the photometric plan, and we will kind of zoom in on some of the other areas to look at it in a little more detail. But as you can see, the chapel is the diamond-shaped building there in the top left. Our parking area is in the backyard of 5 homes that have been occupied for several years now. So we were very sensitive to the fact that we were introducing something new in the backyards of those homes. And our Homeowners Association president lives in the top middle house. So she has been fully engaged and informed in this process. So with that in mind, we tried to design to the lower end of the range. In our average photometric plan, the average foot candle is roughly a half of a foot candle. So if you'll go to the next slide. So this is a little closer look at the upper parking lot area. There are a total of 22 street lights. There are lights around the building, and then there are the lights that come down into the parking area. The blue spots on the photometric plan, and maybe it's a little hard to see on this plan, the tiny little blue dots represent a 0 light level, so light is not standing into those yards. And then the little red dots range from a 0.1 to as high as a 6.5 foot candle directly under a streetlight fixture. And then I've shown, to make it more legible, I've just taken some representative readings kind of in the middle of the drive aisle. You're at a 1.5 foot candle, you're at a 1 foot candle. Here, you know, in the front yard, you're at a 0.1. At the back property line of this house, you're at 0.1. And that just kind of shows you the light levels. Knowing that we are in the backyards of these homes, we've taken some additional precautions to minimize light spillage into the private property. So the lights that are circled in red, they have house side shields on them to block light from going directly towards the houses. And also those 3 lights and some of the additional lights further on the next slide are controlled by photocells. So, well, photocell and time clock. So they will come on at dusk, but then we can control the time that they go off. And we're planning for those lights to go off at 11 p.m. But we could adjust that time to 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, depending on the residents' input. So that way the lighting will only be concentrated right around the building after 11 o'clock. So this is the lower parking lot area. There are, let's see, there are 8 lights down there. 7 of them will go off at 11 o'clock, and only the light that's there in the center will kind of be a watch light for security in that lower parking area after 11 p.m. The next slide, please. So this slide shows some of the details of the fixtures and the poles, and also just to kind of summarize the light specifications. Depending on where the fixture is, there are different beam patterns for these LED fixtures. You've got type 2 and type 4, and that just shapes. That's really the nice thing about these LED lights, is that they can shape the beam pattern for a narrow, wide illuminating pattern if you're in a drive aisle, or a more broadly dispersed lighting pattern if you're in the middle of one of those parking bays. We have house side shields on the 3 lights that are adjacent to homes. The color temperature selected is 4,000 Kelvin, which is kind of a cool white, and that's the same color temperature of all the other street lights in the neighborhood. And they are full cutoff fixtures, so no light is going up for dark sky considerations. Final slide. Let's see, this just shows one of the other types of fixtures, more of the kind of a cobra head fixture and the pole, and then the pole foundations. We have 3 heights of pole out there, 12, 20, and 22.5 feet. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. If there's any member of the public that wishes to comment on this item for action, not seeing any, I would turn to members of the board. I'll remind board members, new and old, that there is an approved lighting package for this district that kind of guides what type of light fixtures can be used. It was approved. There's not many of us on this board that remember that approval. Actually, I think I might be the only one on this board that remembers that approval. So that's what Mr. Perkins is referring to. I actually even spoke to Denise to see if we could get you all shared that information if you didn't have it digitally, just so you could know when that comes up, what the prior, because similar to signage, this was something that the ARB approved for these districts from that perspective. So that's just a general observation. Ms. Mangum.
Well, I heard the 11 PM cutoff for most of the lights, and I guess I was just thinking, is that part of the overall design package? Is that specific to the programming at the church that they think they will need or parking lot lights until 11 PM most nights?
That is just a voluntary detail that we've added for this application for the church.
Okay.
So the street lights and the parking lot lights throughout the rest of the community are on dawn till dusk. So.
And that's where I just, generally speaking, I was thinking, is there a way to make the light dimming time more adjustable based on needs of the church in the parking area, just to eliminate those nights where it is on until 11 PM?
It's a time clock, and it can be adjusted really to whatever we want to make it in coordination with the community.
Did the church congregation or the leadership ask for 11 PM or did?
They have not. No,
Okay.
that is just a time that really we as the developer kind of chose as a default.
Okay.
They have not requested that.
Okay.
So we could go to them and ask them, on a regular basis, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, what do you need?
Okay.
And then, if it's a midnight mass for Christmas, we have them on
Sure,
midnight.
exactly, right.
By
Okay.
exception.
Sure.
So we have not had that conversation with the church.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Has VHR had to review this?
Yes, and we should have the letter they gave us in the package.
It was all thumbs up, okay.
Yeah, their comment was the conditions that the proposed lighting installations are consistent in design with the existing lighting in the complex. They do not believe the project will adversely impact historic resources.
Cool, and I agree.
Ms. Swan?
I just wanna applaud your package. It's so well put together, and everything my concern you have spoken and explained to us. It's feel very interesting that commercial property abutting the residential property has a lot of lighting regulation. And it gives us a very good guideline of how we managing all this light pollution. The problem I often see in our HOA is the residential property itself start to putting up all landscape light and lights up every single trees, and we have no baseline to regulate that. We do, but not very clear baseline on that. So I thank you for your package.
You're welcome.
And I was going to say, I'm glad to hear that the HOA has been engaged because for the longest time, this has just been a vacant building. So I think in some respects, it's actually a better thing that's actually an activated building, because that was one of the things initially when you first started coming here. It's like, well, if we can find someone who can utilize the church, and it's been appreciative to see every one of the buildings that you keep coming to. Well, we found someone who can utilize this building. So it's, being engaged. And then even as a prison complex, lighting would be pretty typical. So, I don't have a problem with that either. So overall,
Spotlight?
yeah, no, we tried to propose that when they did the initial lighting plan, can we get spotlights and, watch wardens walking the towers, but it didn't fly. It didn't capture.
Those historic spotlights are out there, still on the guard
Yeah.
towers. We just need to plug them in.
For Halloween.
Yeah. All right.
Neighbors misbehave.
If there are no other comments from board members, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make it.
All right, Ms. Hammack?
Mr. Chairman, I move that ARB approve action item ARB-2025-MB-00041, located at 8475 Reformatory Way, 7109A, in the Laura Hill MOA eligible district, for the installation of 22 parking lot light poles and fixtures, as submitted and presented at the November 13th, 2025 ARB meeting. The applicant must request an amendment from the ARB for any proposed changes to ARB-2025-MB-00041 as approved by the ARB on November 13th, 2025. Upon review of the materials, the proposal is bound to meet the requirements of the Memorandum of Agreement of the Laura Hill Eligible District and Zoning Ordinance 3101-Historic Overlay Districts.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Ms. Perkins, as always, pleasure to see you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, that takes us out of our items for action and brings us into workshop sessions. We have 2 workshop session items. First one is ARB WK 2025 MB 00023 1944 Marfa's Road Porch Edition. This is in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District, and the proposed project is to build a covered 16 by 12 screen porch over a new concrete patio. Build HD LLC representing the application. If you'd like to state your name for the record.
Kimberly Sanchez.
All right, Ms. Sanchez, the floor is yours.
So we are doing a project for the Amaris. They currently have a concrete patio outside, I guess, the side rear of their home. They are looking to that concrete with a new concrete patio, a brushed concrete patio with a screened porch over top of it. The dimensions would be 16 by 12 with a flat roof, all screened. On one side, pointing towards the top corner, there's going to be a retaining wall that is currently there. We're just replacing that retaining wall as well with a new one that is CMU block with a cultured stone veneer and then a flagstone top. That's it.
All right. And then we've gotten a package from you with some
Yes.
information, some concept renderings
Yes.
and information. So I think I would,
That's just looking
yeah,
at
if you want to
the
walk us through any of that, you're welcome to, or I can turn to board members. In a workshop, we don't take public comments, so.
That's just looking at the top. You're seeing the flat roof and then the retaining wall on the side. That's, I guess, just looking at the retaining wall and not the roof there. And then, honestly, I don't know what I'm looking at there.
Looking at the existing,
Oh,
it's the existing home.
okay.
Go to the next slide. There you go.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go.
And then that's with the porch added on there.
Well, it can't truly be a flat roof, like it's draining the roof.
Yeah, it's got a little pitch to it, but it's all flat material.
What is the retaining wall currently made out of?
Currently,
It looks to be brick at this point.
there are pictures in there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the retaining wall to be rebuilt in kind, like to match how it is now,
Okay,
instead of a stone veneer.
okay.
It looks like it does have a coping, like a capstone, but yeah.
You'd like to see it in like the brick veneer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you can even reuse the bricks. I don't
Okay.
know what the condition they are in. That's my suggestion.
Any other?
Is there any reason why you can't build on the existing retaining wall?
That I don't know.
Well, I can answer that.
This
I'm
is-
sorry. I'm a representative of HD Exteriors. My name is Tom Sanchez. I'm her husband. So.
I love it.
Here, I'm just tagging me in here. Reason being is because we're gonna end up setting our 6x6 or posts that are holding up the porch on this wall, right? So we want to rebuild it and do a new foundation. That's why we want to rebuild it. We don't trust the existing one.
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
So that's why we're doing that.
Thank you.
I think it's a modest change.
Other than it's going to be hard to, I mean, right now it's the original brick that matches. Without more information, I presume it's the original brick that matches the original house. It looks very close. You could always dig out and investigate the footings to see what condition it is and I mean, in worst case condition, you could underpin the footing.
I mean, we can, we'd have to.
It's just that you're tearing out
I also
a
believe
historic
though
piece of the
that
house to replace it
the
with.
placement of the retaining wall is shifting. I don't believe it's being placed in the exact same spot.
Okay,
I
all right,
believe
did
it's-
not realize that from the.
Yeah, I believe we're tearing it down and enlarging that space to fit that whole wall space.
And this is an addition onto the original home based on, I mean, is this, because that roof and everything, that's not,
Okay.
well, I'm just asking, because based on my observation, that doesn't look like anything else I've ever seen in Holland
So
Hills,
when
right?
you come to us, I think what we need is more photographs of the home, like from all the elevations.
Okay.
And then a photo from the street looking back so that we can see if we can see this change from the public right of way.
Gotcha.
So even the driveway, you can see it, that's private property. Just focus on what can
They
we see.
don't have a driveway.
Okay, what I'm saying is,
Okay.
if you can see it from their side yard, I don't care as much because someone would be trespassing if they were standing there, but it's just the public right of way. But if you can see it, from, sometimes in Holland Hills, you can't see something when you're standing right in front of it, but if you walk to the cul-de-sac.
Right.
So that's something, so just, do a beat and send those photos to us.
But I agree with Ms. Hammock, it's a modest, compared to the other additions and changes we see in Holland Hills, this
The
is
one
modest to
neighbor
see.
down the street a little from earlier, yeah.
It just, looking at the aerial, this looks like an addition onto the original Holland Hills home based on just the roof too, because I don't think I've ever seen one of those in any of the original. Adding on to something,
Would you like us to come back knowing that?
it would be very helpful information to know. And obviously, because it does look like there is the possibility you could see it, and that's why Ms. Hammock's question is really good. I think making sure it's well-designed and its look would be very helpful so that it, seamlessly, if it is seen.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Orr.
Have you found that brick matching is working in Holland Hills, or is that not happening so much?
From all my experience, it is always difficult to match brick.
Well, what we'll try to do when we come back is tomorrow I will start having somebody go out there to try to match the brick. And so when we come back, I'll try to have a sample of it.
Madam Grout.
Yeah.
Or like maybe you could salvage some, like if it is still visible from the street, maybe you salvage some good bricks and you build the street facing side out of that.
And that's why I wonder, just looking at the footprint, is
Yeah.
this is even, or, is that even the
Yeah.
same type
But
of
if
brick
it
that you're
is-
dealing with? Knowing the history of the house and the additions would be
If
helpful.
you can see the retaining wall in conjunction with some brick, it would be good if the bricks match.
No, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
But if you bring us brick samples, we don't know if they match unless you bring us some of the
Gotcha.
original.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can see there's a lot of variation within the brick that's on the wall. And we don't even know if what we're looking at is original brick. Again, it gets back to
Good.
some more information. Ideally, you give us, with the elevations, that we can see the whole face of the house that we're looking at.
Okay.
And also, if we see the existing conditions, then we would, then I would have been able to more clearly see, not have to ask the question. I mean, it's fine here in the workshop, this is what this is
Yeah.
for, but when it comes to the application, I want to see what was there, what you're replacing it with.
Okay.
So a little bit more detail on the drawings.
Okay.
It's going to
But
be
in
necessary.
concept, I think it's definitely something the board can support.
So I have another question.
Yes.
So that differentiation that you want in historic buildings, would the brick be one of those elements that, or you?
So from my perspective, that's
Yeah.
one why I want to know, are we looking at brick on an addition knowing the full, what we're
I
working
see.
with here?
Yes.
And if we can, I agree with Mr. Kalinsky, having something that's a little bit closer, even if we're not matching exactly, would be better. Because if it's not, it's going to stand out very obviously in a way that's going to detract from the property as opposed to we've tried to match the varied pattern that happens in Holland Hills. And, there's still, looking at the materials in this, it would stand out to an architect. You'd be like, that's addition. But, for a layman, I'm not expecting it to be super tellable, but I wouldn't also be like, wow, look at that, bright red brick, that's right there, that, which I don't think you're gonna do, but, that context would be helpful for us.
So,
That's Mr. Kalinsky.
yeah, I'm looking through the drawings, kind of looking for this, a detailed wall roof section,
Okay.
all the, and the distances,
Yep.
depths of beams, thickness of the roof, all that clearly shown, and the connection to the house. I mean, those things are all,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to figure that out to
Yeah.
build that.
Yep.
Figure it out and show us on paper first, so
Yeah.
we know that what's being built is what's being represented.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And thinking just of some other board members who aren't even here tonight, will ask some of those exact same questions.
Okay.
Once he's asking,
I'm channeling them.
yeah, he's channeling them from afar, that kind of contextual information, planning information is gonna be critical.
No, that's exactly why we came.
The Holland Hills guidelines says 1944 Martha's Road has a 1999 addition. So maybe you can confirm that or where that addition was, but that's.
Okay, well, there we go.
I will find out everything about that addition before we come back.
I need to just have that permanently downloaded on my tablet, I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I don't need to school you, but when you file with us, it is always good to probably first look up the building in our guidelines to see if there's any background information, but that's fine.
Did you have a?
Well, you're calling out for vinyl soffit ceiling inside and out. Vinyl's not a material typical of Holland Hills. That's preferably some sort of wood finish.
On the inside and the outside, or just the outside?
Inside and outside, because it will be visible from the outside through the screen.
That's
And also any sort of screen details.
Okay.
Right now I'm looking at a model that has a frame, but doesn't really show those details. So all those, hate to say it, but the nuts and bolts, the little details, that's what makes,
It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad.
that's what makes these things, best represent themselves, how they match with the original mid-century modern aesthetic.
It always aids in approval if you can point out where a material selection is consistent with the guidelines. And the benefit Holland Hills has amongst many of our other HODs is that it has a very current set of guidelines with very detailed information. So if you can say, hey, we're using this material, this is consistent with guideline here for additions or porches and stuff, that's very helpful because it strengthens the case for an application when coming in. As Mr. Kalinsky pointed out, if you're going to use a typically not recommended material, you're going to get asked why compared to the recommended material.
Now, if the regular neighborhood HOA is okay with that material, it still could vary from what you guys would
Yes,
prefer?
and that is something that is, the Holland Hills DRB could approve it, and we might not necessarily be in alignment with them. And we are two independent boards. We appreciate each other's insights, but we don't always see eye to eye necessarily.
Gotcha. Oh, that works.
Any other feedback from board members? Otherwise, I think you got a great concept. It sounds like in concept, the board doesn't have many major issues with the idea of doing a covered porch here. More detail, look at those materials, and then the design packet that comes in for the actual application, as Mr. Kalinsky said. We want to see exactly what you're going to build and what you're going to submit so that, obviously every one of these architects on this board is going to look at it. They're going to pull out their monocle and they'll analyze it. I assume that's what architects still use.
Right, yeah, sure.
Stick our bow ties on first.
Yeah, no, really appreciate y'all coming out.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Top hats too, right? All right, that brings us into our next workshop session. That is ARB WK 2025 HM 00024 RZ FDP 2025 HM 00018-1850 Old Reston Avenue. Jeez. The historic Bowman House, AKA Sunset Hills, that is located on a site that is listed in the county's inventory of sites. Staff recommend the applicant consult the ARB on the proposed changes to the site with the proposed redevelopment. And obviously, I think just, you can all read that in the description there, but to remind folks, this is something that's not in HOD. However, there are proffers requirements, and it is a property, historic property in the inventory. So that is where our role of involvement is here. It's not similar to an HOD application.
Are we advisory or binding?
So the proffers require them to, correct Denise, come to the ARB for our feedback on the design and efforts going on to affect both Sunset Hills as well as the design around the site. I'm not quoting them verbatim, but there are proffer requirements.
Yeah, and I couldn't quote them verbatim right now either, but this workshop is a little bit beyond the scope of the proffers, because staff through the development review process has recommended that the applicant come and get input and comment from the Architectural Review Board on certain things that are not necessarily part of your purview under the proffers, but because you are an advisory to the Board of Supervisors and other commissions, you can advise this applicant on the historic nature of the property. Is that helpful?
So that probably made it even more complicated, all the context, but we're here to be advisory to the applicant, and obviously our comments can bear weight with the Board of Supervisors.
And just to summarize what she said too, and by the way, my name is Andrew Painter. I'm a zoning attorney at the law firm of Walsh Colucci, speaking tonight on behalf of EYA. They are the applicant in the zoning case. I'm joined by Mika Gelfand-Gross, who is a senior development manager with EYA, and then sitting in the back is Jack McLaurin, who's a senior vice president for planning and design. So we're going to go through all of this. This is sort of a refresher. But the bottom line is there was a zoning case that was approved in 2019 with proffered commitments to preserve certain buildings on this property, and any changes have to come back before ARB. Now we are revising the proffers and that approval to do something different, but we're carrying forward those commitments. So what we did, we appeared before you all at the February meeting. And at the time, we hadn't filed a zoning case or anything like that, but this was part of a broader sort of stakeholder outreach. Let's meet with, just historic, heritage resources on site. They're not really protected except in the proffers. And, let's just get some initial feedback about how you all feel about it. And we committed to returning back to you once we actually filed an application. So we filed an application to revise what was previously approved in June. And we have now received the first round of staff comments, and we're responding to those comments. And there are a couple of things that planning department staff has said, it'd be good for you all now to go back and just sort of check in. And by the way, there's a couple of items that we'd like like the ARB's feedback on. And so we're going to go through each one of those, if that's okay. So it is an advisory capacity, but when this does get approved, or assuming it gets approved, the same commitments that require us to come back to ARB will be carried forward. So at some point in time, probably at time of site plan, when the construction actually occurs, then you all will be in an approval capacity at that point in time, if that makes sense. Okay, why don't we go through, if we could go to the next slide, please. I think what we'll do, if it's okay, is we'll provide the background context. We'll talk about what has been approved or what we showed you in February, how we responded to those comments, and then some of the staff comments, and we'll sort of march through them. There's 5 of them that we'll go through. Okay, we can go through to the next slide. This site is located off of Old Reston Avenue. It is just immediately north of the W&OD Trail. Okay, so it's about 5.19 acres, and it is approved with the circa 1899 A. Smith Bowman House. And by that way, that's in 1927, A. Smith Bowman moved down from Cincinnati. He bought this house as well as about 3,200 acres. And later he would sell it to Bob Simon in the early 1960s to create Reston. But this was where this A. Smith Bowman family lived. There is a kitchen addition, which is not historic, that was added sometime in the late 1990s. There's a garage that's also not historic. There are, it's a 2-wing office building that was constructed back in 1986. Down here next to the WNOD Trail, there's an old switching station, and there's a pond, which is really a stormwater management pond that actually goes back, we trace it back to the early 1900s, right around the turn of the century, but then it was really widened and improved, totally like eviscerated and redone to provide stormwater management for these office buildings when they were constructed. There is a gazebo right here, which is about the same vintage as the house. Across the street, there's the old distillery building. That's not part of the application, but these are the remnants of what remains of what was the town of Wheelie, which was Max Wheelie moved here to create, about like 3,200 acres and to create a house or create a town, which never came to fruition. There's also a white wall that runs along Old Reston Avenue, and that's in two sections. There's a brick wall that's painted white, which runs for about 300 feet. And then there is a CMU wall, cinder block wall, which was added sometime in the 1960s or 70s to kind of match the brick wall, but it doesn't fully match. But there's just two sections of it. And that'll come up a little bit later. Old Reston Avenue, believe it or not, if we go back, I'm sorry, Old Reston Avenue, believe it or not, before Reston Parkway was put through, this was the north-south route, and it was added back in the late 1980s. I think it was like the third scenic byway in the Commonwealth of Virginia after Clifton Road and Georgetown Pike. So it's a small little section that just goes between Sunset Hills Road and Temporary Road. And I would argue that this section of it, particularly with the white wall and this building and the switching station, this is really the only thing that gives, this sort of this Old Reston Avenue the scenic byway character. So if you look at the comprehensive plan, it talks about the desire to preserve the aesthetic character of Old Reston Avenue. Okay, we can go on. That's okay. Back in 2019, we appeared before this body, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association, or AFMA. They bought the site in 2009, and they did a fantastic renovation of the manor house. And at the time, in the 2019 timeframe, we received approval for a new corporate headquarters, about 145,000 square feet, very modern office buildings in an L-shape, sort of flanking both sides or two sides of the A. Smith Bowman House. The A. Smith Bowman House was preserved. We sought to, and I was the zoning attorney for that as well, we sought to create a new sort of formal garden between the new building and the Bowman House. We wanted to preserve the parking out front. That was very important. And then we needed to provide on-site circulation to get into the below-grade garages. There were a couple comments from staff at the time. They did not like the surface parking. They did not like the fact that the visual connection between the A. Smith Bowman House and the gazebo here was cut off and severed. We worked heavily as well. We got to know everyone in the Stratford condominium, which are a series of buildings over here, really well. They were very concerned, particularly about cars and headlights sort of shining here. There are a series of trees which run along a trail that's a publicly accessible trail just off-site. We worked with them. They became very good friends of ours, and I mean that. So that was a very good relationship. The comprehensive plan for this site is important. It calls for office or residential uses at a 0.6 FAR. If you look at the comprehensive plan as it pertains to this site, it reflects only this approval. It just says there's an office building that's approved for it. That's it. Before the adoption of the 2023 Reston Comprehensive Plan updates, it was much more voluminous, and it said that the A. Smith Bowman House and the gazebo should be preserved, and new buildings should be sensitively sited in relation to those buildings. For whatever reason, the Restonians zapped that language out. We are carrying that forward, though. We are trying to honor that as sort of we move forward. And as I mentioned before, the comprehensive plan also says that the character should be preserved along Old Reston Avenue. Before we go to the next slide, obviously we know what's happened with the office market. AFMA's office needs have greatly been reduced. And so AFMA started looking for a development partner that could provide a desired use that would be complementary to the property and honor the context of the site. And that's where EYA came in. Back in February, we spent a lot of time talking about EYA's experience with historic trust properties and how they sensitively design things around it. Not going to go through all of that again, but the things sort of that they look for when they're citing things. And then they provided some examples back in February, but we won't go through that tonight. We can go to the next slide. Okay, in February, we appeared before you, and we discussed the overall design process and approach. We established sort of 5 design guidelines. We met with a series of stakeholders. You all were one of them. We met with Stratford. We met with Reston Planning and Zoning. We met with Nova Parks, that operates the WNOD Trail, which is immediately adjacent to us to the south. And so the design approach that we had at the time, we didn't know exactly how many units or anything like that at the time when we met with you all. But the design approach was to set forth 5 design drivers, and those design drivers were: number 1, carry forward the preservation of the site's historic elements. Number 2, preserve view corridors, both from Old Reston Avenue as you look up the hill to the Manor House, and then also to the WNOD Trail where the gazebo is, having that sort of linear connection. Number 3, accommodate adjacencies in terms of having heights that match, uses that match, tree preservation, and pedestrian connectivity to the north and to the west with Stratford in particular. Number 4, provide a unified architectural expression. And in February, we did, Jack, I think, talked about how we've designed, or how EYA has designed these. They didn't just pull something off the shelf. They wanted to really kind of match, a lot of the, take design cues from the A. Smith Bowman House. And lastly, thoughtful landscape design. So this is what we showed you all back in February. We took back comments, from you, and we really appreciate it. I think there was a lot of appreciation for how things have been cited. Mr. Burns at the time had talked about, liking the opening of the view shed. Ms. Huang, I think you said the same thing. And then there was a concern about parking, just making sure that it was right sized from a parking perspective. There were concerns about overflow parking and that sort of thing as well. But generally, I think receptivity to what we were showing at the time. Fast forward to June, we can go to the next slide. As filed, this is what we filed in June. It's more refined, but it really carries forward and mirrors what was proposed. And this is what was in the workshop materials that were forwarded to you in advance of tonight's meeting. There's 57 townhomes. 42 of them are rear load townhomes. And then you have 12 or 15 of them that are front load townhomes. And we selected front load townhomes adjacent to Stratford because of what we heard. The alternative would have been to run an alley behind here with rear load. And these neighbors just, not that they don't want to look into it, but we thought it was a much more suitable transition to have front load townhomes backing up to the established residential community to the west. We are retaining the Bowman House. We retain the gazebo. We have large portions of the white wall here. And I would say too, initially when we filed, you can sort of see it here, but we needed to provide some sort of break here from a fire access perspective in the historic white wall. We will talk about this in a second, but that was a no-no from staff. That's the most historic portion of the wall, so we've had to work to try to find a way to eliminate that, and we have. We have preserved a sort of a grassy area right here to provide that visual connection along Old Reston Avenue. And then we borrowed design cues from the Bowman House. We also showed a large path in our initial design to this formal garden. There was a boxwood garden here going back to the early 1930s. Unfortunately, the boxwoods were diseased and they died probably around the 2010-ish timeframe. But we're trying to reestablish it in the same historic location as it was before and create a publicly accessible open space. As part of the zoning case, back in 2019, AFMA, from a security perspective, did not want to have anyone come onto their property. The county recommends that when you go through a zoning process that you have publicly accessible park spaces, that you invite the public onto your private property. And that makes sense in a way, because when you're introducing new density, there aren't many parks, and how do we create new parks in an area that doesn't have many of them? So what we did was we worked with the Nova Parks, the NVRPA, to provide amenities on the WNOD Trail to check that box off. This time around, we have about 20,000 square feet of publicly accessible open space. So we're actually inviting people onto the property. And so that's not an issue. We have met with Nova Parks. We're carrying forward the same commitments to them, even though we don't really need to. But we told everyone, publicly exclaimed, that we're going to carry forward the commitments from the past. The comprehensive plan calls for a signature greenway. There is a concept that has been floated in Reston that the WNOD Trail that runs along Sunrise Valley Drive, like under the power lines where those commuters park, that should be turned into a High Line equivalent, okay? And what they've done, if you've been on the Martha Custis Trail in Arlington, like into Georgetown, You might see like those little waysides, like, little seating areas and little ponds and stuff like that, and they punctuate the trail. That's kind of what, if you open up the comprehensive plan, that's what they've come up with. There are 4 sort of nodes, right? And I get very excited about this stuff, so I'm sorry, but this is the old Reston Avenue node, okay? So it's one of the 4 nodes. And as I said before, we have heritage resources on here that really are the last vestiges of the original town of Wheeling. So staff challenged us to provide, we weren't showing a connection to WNOD. We met with Nova Parks. We're going to work something out, and we have a proper commitment to do that. But what that now means is we will have a publicly accessible circuit for trail users that starts here, come onto the property. You can go to the gazebo where there will be bench seating and a historic interpretive marker. You can go through the muse, which will be publicly accessible through an easement. And then you can come in front of the historic manor house. You can also go to the formal gardens. You can go back out to the WNOD trail, or you can come down this path here, which will be publicly accessible, and hit the 4th resource that we have, which is the historic wall. So all of a sudden, and then there's a path that goes this way. All of a sudden, you have an entire circuit on this property, and in response to these first round of staff comments, it's caused us to change how we view this property. It's not just a project for us, but now it becomes a project that's surrounded by a park. And so that's been kind of fun to think about. We can go to the next slide. Not as many changes. We received a lot of comments from staff. We're going to talk about the white wall in a second, but they had questions about this urban lawn and the programmatic elements, what this trail wants to be, how wide does it really need to be, how do we get people back to this formal garden. There's a question about the use of the manor house, which we can talk about, whether you need to have sidewalks on both sides of the street. We've really tried to have sort of, there's a lot of topography. There's like a 70 or 40-foot drop between parts of it. We don't want to over-engineer this thing. We think that it would just ruin the site. And that has nothing to do with saving money or anything like that. It's about ruining the site. So every decision that we've made goes into those design drivers I mentioned earlier, and we compute out the answer. And so this is a work in progress. We have, staff has not seen this. We have not resubmitted, but we're planning on resubmitting in the next couple of weeks. All right, next slide. Okay, we talked about the architectural inspiration last time. We'll go through it, but really what you're looking at are the different bricks, the cornices, the size of the windows and that sort of thing. This is different architecture than EYA has used elsewhere. We believe that white is the appropriate thing. I think internally we've debated it. Some on staff have said, well, you could mix it up. I like the white. It's just me. I think it provides sort of a cohesive visual expression from an architectural perspective. Okay, next slide. Now the fun part. Oh, here are the pictures. So this is looking from basically the gazebo up to the manor house. Okay, so this would be the publicly accessible muse area, and you would basically walk across here at a crosswalk, which is not depicted here, to get in front of the manor house, and then you can go behind these buildings here where the formal garden will be, or you can go back out to Old Reston Avenue. Next slide. And this sort of shows, as you're coming down Old Reston Avenue, the building really sort of pops. Both when you're coming up Old Reston Avenue from here, you don't see the manor house, and this is why we chose this location for this stick of townhouses, because you don't see the manor house until you hit this point. So we didn't want to have it come any further to jeopardize that view as you would otherwise experience it today. And the same thing's true as you come down Old Reston Avenue. Okay, next slide. All right, so the comments that staff has raised, there are 5 of them. And I think for 3 of the 5, they're kind of easily addressed. And so these are the things that we need feedback on, and we really would appreciate.
When you say staff comments, you were just referring generally to DPD?
That's correct. Okay. That's right. Yeah, and that's right.
Oh, exactly. You specifically. And Denise. Well, I just want to make sure to clarify that whether or not it's heritage only or if it's other comments you're getting from other DPD staff, broader staff, because
I think it's unified.
Yeah. Well, because for context for board members, obviously, when you go through this process, you're going to get a lot of feedback from DPD staff on zoning applications like this.
I'm sorry, this is so interesting. I was not at the original presentation, and I'm not as familiar with the site as everyone is, I can tell. Where can I find information about the manor house?
We can send you that information.
Yeah, because I need, before I can make any judgment about whether the new construction is appropriate, I need some like really basic knowledge about the date of construction, what it's constructed out of, historic photographs, what it looked like, what is built around it currently.
So
All
there's
this renders, like what is there now?
I mean, the earliest picture he had it, showed you the two monolith
So it
office
was gonna
buildings
be a
there.
hotel in the early 2000s and that died, and then it was gonna be
No.
offices?
It was gonna be offices.
Offices.
Okay,
so in
the
1986.
offices never got built, and then the,
So what's on the property today is the manor house, the gazebo down at the bottom of the hill.
and the gazebo dates from the manor house?
Correct.
Okay.
Then there's a surface parking lot. And we can go.
Those two, right there, those are the two existing buildings.
And those are condos or townhomes?
No,
These
those
are
are
offices.
office buildings.
And those, there were
Exist.
gonna be more of them?
We were gonna demolish those.
Yeah, well, there were gonna be a series of like
And
buildings that were going to
then
be.
the market didn't support that?
Yeah, there.
And then in
you wanted-
2019, we got this approved. So it's 145,000
Yeah.
square foot office building.
But
So
now-
that's what's approved on the site today.
And this, when does that, let's just humor me, when does that approval expire?
It doesn't expire.
Okay, but you're not doing it, okay. So can you go back to what's there now, please? Okay, because I mean, when something's already been approved, it's kind of like, well, now we get fresh eyes, so I'm not. So you want to demolish those two buildings in the rear? And what year do those?
Four buildings.
What year do those?
These are 1986.
Oh, not, okay.
Yeah.
And they
That,
are
I mean,
all
it's like not super sustainable, but okay.
But this is where the building, one of the wings of the building would go, and then the other one was coming out here. So an L-shaped building.
I was born in the 80s, but I wouldn't
Me
buy
too.
something in the 80s either. And, okay. So can you tell me, it sounds like you do know this, what year does the manor house date from? The 19th century? The
1899.
1899. So it's 1899. And has it had a series of additions, or is it in its original footprint?
If we can go back to that slide. So this right here is a kitchen addition that was added.
And it's painted white brick, but it was not historically painted white brick because white paint didn't exist. Okay. But there's no proposal before us today to remove that paint or bring this building back to its closer appearance? Okay.
And the other interesting thing, and I know you said the Restonians removed it. Being on that task force, I don't know how that language got removed.
I don't either.
And so I would actually lay that squarely at the feet of DPD, and someone in staff removed it because I don't think any of the task force members would have taken that proper language or that planning language out. So the fact that you're wanting to carry that forward, but that's what shocked me when you came to us this last time about it, was that it wasn't there, because that blew me away, that kind of protective language was gone, because that was one of the bits of wonderful language we had in the plan, recognizing this, as you said, one of the few pieces of this town, because the other one across the street is literally caving in on itself slowly, so.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry. Did you have any other questions, Gabrielle, or did that give you more context?
I mean,
I can give you just a little bit more.
yeah, I mean, I'm curious, but.
So it was built by Wheatley in 1899 as a 25-room classical revival style mansion for his family. He dies in 1901 before it gets completed.
Typical.
Is there a builder? I mean, it probably was a local builder given, no?
If the town never really flourished, and Bowman comes in the 20s, late 20s.
1927.
27.
And I only know that because the same broker that handled that sale was the subdivider of my subdivision, Greenway Downs, in the Providence District. The third oldest subdivision in all of Fairfax County.
Wow.
So we can, if it's not already scanned, we can scan the original nomination and all of the information that we have on the property and send it to the board, which might have gone out in the February workshop, but I'm not positive.
Okay, well, that'd be helpful because I'm only finding the National Register report for the distillery. Anyway.
Whole nother.
Is this on the
Whole nother
this? estate, the private home on the National Register?
I don't believe it's on the National
No.
Register, it's just on the local county
So
inventory.
it's not on the, nobody's on
County does not do a good job doing that.
it? No one
Neither here nor
wanted,
there.
nobody wanted tax credits, okay, all right. all right.
Should we move on to the 5 items?
Yeah, I think so.
Fast forward. And then I'm going to summarize the items, but let me know if I'm misstating them or anything. Okay. So there's 5 things. Now staff has requested specifically the 2 through 5. I wanted to just put number 1 up there just because it's the historic preservation one. The first comment that we received in our submission items was to carry forward the 2019 historic preservation proffers. We are doing that, and I will walk you through those proffers next. The second thing deals, as I mentioned, with the historic portion of the white brick wall, the brick portion of it. And again, initially we were proposing a punch through, like a 5-foot punch through from a fire marshal perspective. County staff came back and said, we don't want anything to happen to that part of the white wall. You can do it to the cinder block portion of the wall, that's fine, but not the historic part of the wall. And we did struggle with how to solve that, but we've changed our plans, and that's not an issue anymore. County staff doesn't yet know that because they haven't yet seen our resubmission. The white CMU wall. So there's the portion that's south of the brick wall, and we'll look at all this. That portion goes into the property probably about 4 or 5 feet from where we want to relocate it and move it, okay? So the question that staff would appreciate your feedback on, I think, is whether or not you all feel that is appropriate. We'll get to that. So that's kind of the first issue I think that we could use some significant feedback on. Reuse of the Bowman House, and we'll get into this as well. Originally, it was a hotel a long time ago, potentially like established as a hotel or as a mansion, 25-room mansion. It was used as a private residence. In the 1980s, with those new buildings, it was converted into an office, and then AFMA, when they bought the property in 2009, did a major renovation of it, so it's an office today. We have been trying to figure out the appropriate use of this, knowing that it will now be in a residential community. Our thought is to reconvert it back to a single-family residential unit. We are also saying maybe it could be an office use, or maybe it could be a clubhouse as a focal point for the community. County staff has suggested another potential use could be subdividing it and condoing it out into as many as 4 units.
Is that really what some county staff said? We've approved $1 million mansions all over this county. There's $1 million mansion pre-built by a wealthy man. Why do we have to keep approving nasty ones? There's one nice one. And sorry.
Because it's surrounded by townhomes.
Anyway, sorry, I
Have
digress.
people walking through the yard.
Yeah.
This is going to be a challenge, having
It
it
should be
open.
We'll just plant trees in front of every one of their windows.
So I think
Yeah, anyway, sorry.
You don't regulate use.
Substantive issue.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that has really taken up our time on this, like I would say probably 75% of the time, has been what to do with the old Reston Avenue streetscape, okay? In 2019, we worked with staff staff was adamant, they want a sidewalk on our side of the street. It should be 8 feet with a large landscape amenity panel. Eventually, we all came to the conclusion that all we can really do is 5 feet. If we want to preserve the wall and the aesthetic value, what remains of it, all we can do is 5 feet. It was never fully engineered. So we were trying to carry forward that prior proffer. We struggled, and we've gone back and forth. Staff on November 5th gave us a suggested streetscape that meshes pedestrian connectivity with kind of the funkiness of low-level plantings and landscaping. And we have agreed to do that. Staff doesn't yet know that, but we have agreed to do that. We'll show you exactly what those sections look like. So 5, 1, and 2 should be like box checked. So the ones that remain that I think we could use feedback on, feedback on all of them, that's great. But I think the ones that really remain are 3 and 4. So we'll walk through each of them if that's okay. All right, we can go to the next slide. These are the historic preservation proffers that we agreed to in 2019 that we are carrying forward. Staff hasn't yet seen the draft proffer statement because we don't usually submit our proffers until we resubmit. But I'm working on it. We're working on it right now. And we're basically carrying forward these commitments verbatim. So one of them, preservation of the Bowman House, in situ, where it is, any modifications or additions subject to ARB review and approval. Same thing with this proffer, maintenance of the gazebo, any modifications subject to ARB review and approval. Third, retention of the existing wall along Old Ruston Avenue with any replacement or modification to be in a similar style. Visual inspection by DPD Heritage Resources prior to the first occupancy permit. This one, prior to submission of the site plan, return to the ARB for review and comment with building plans and materials. Do a architectural survey of the carriage house / garage on the site, and then install protective construction fencing around the Bowman House and gazebo. So those are the commitments that we made. That's what we're carrying forward. So any questions on that at all?
So looking at that, so is there any reason why that language, some of the language is highlighted, or does it just happen to be highlighted?
Just happen to be highlighted.
Always got to ask.
What's the intent, so you're gonna survey the carriage house to know its conditions, or?
Just to preserve, just to know what was there previous, that there was a.
Document it before it goes away?
That's right.
Like to like standards of HABs, or, I mean, you don't know.
Well, this is just the language that was in the proffers, and sometimes proper language is,
Vague.
well,
written. These, you call it like a phase one architectural study.
I don't know the proffers, yeah.
Looking at 13D, submission prior to site plan approval of building plans and materials ARB. So right now, we've seen a conceptual plan and we've seen this stuff here. That would still imply that eventually you'll come to us with an actually set, if this is the proffers that get carried forward, a fully fleshed out set of construction plans.
Material boards, that's
okay, things like that. Okay, just want to make sure, because I know we've been seeing you for a lot of things. You've been gathering a lot of information. As you said, that last meeting with us was more of a informational meeting and stakeholder meeting as opposed to that. But I just want to make sure I understood the intent behind that one, because I think that one's really critical, because this is interesting that the ARB, obviously, most of our purview is in those HODs. These proffers are giving us a lot more authority in these areas that we don't always have. So I appreciate that. I think that's great that that's happening there. So I just wanted to make sure I had an understanding of that aspect.
Go on to the next item, if that's okay. All right, now this is where it gets fun. Okay. Staff items 2 and 3, the old Reston Avenue wall. These are just some images of the wall, okay? So what you're looking at here is you're looking northbound, okay, to the main entrance here. And what happens is there's the wall and then it sort of curves in. It's very elegant, actually. And it's punctuated by these, by these little spires here. But that's the original brick portion of the wall. And we can sort of now we'll look south if we go to the next slide. And then you can see where the wall comes down and then it ends. And then you've got the cinder block wall that kind of picks up just a little bit further down. And you can go to the next slide. One of the things we struggled with, just so that you know, is the topography and where this wall sits. Okay, so you can see the CMU wall, you can see the end of the brick wall, you see the Bowman House in the background and the 1986 office buildings. But there is substantial topography here. There's also trees here. VDOT has control over all of this. And the planning commissioner for the Hunter Mill District has said, and I agree with him, I think we all agree, these are trees that have grown and they're elegant and they're lovely. VDOT made it very clear on our phone call, they're gone. They are gone. And they have to go anyway, because if you want to have a sidewalk here, they got to go anyway. But VDOT was like, I don't care what happens. We need these things out of the right of way, which, is unfortunate. But that also has implication for what we can plant on this side of the wall when we do put in the sidewalk, because they don't want trees. They're fine with shrubs and things like that in the landscape amenity panel between the curb and the sidewalk, but they don't want to have trees. But I just showed this because it's a sort of a, undulating kind of thing as you look down towards the WOD trail, which is right here. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just to summarize, this is the historic portion of the wall, basically. We were punching through, like here, a 5 foot wide, with the sidewalk, a 5 foot wide little sidewalk to connect this sidewalk here to this sidewalk. We've since gotten rid of that. So that issue should be solved and resolved, okay? So now the question is, and I think what DPD staff would appreciate your feedback on, this is the wall that was installed in the 60s and 70s, sometime around that, this portion of it here. It's about 345-ish feet from here to here. What we are proposing to do is to get rid of that wall and construct a new wall that mimics the old wall along the Reston Avenue sidewalk. And in the 2019 approval, we can go to the next slide. And by the way, there's breaks and stuff. So this is the 2019 approval, and you can sort of see here the 5-foot sidewalk that we have. We have portions of that wall that we were preserving and then portions that we were reconstructing and demolishing in like this portion here in the 2019 approval. So portions of it are approved to go today. It looks like, if you can go back one slide, I'm sorry. It looks like when you look at this, like, oh my gosh, this is like 20 feet. It's really the difference between here and this table. It's not wide. So it's really not much at all. We are providing breaks in the wall punctuated by those spires, which try to mimic what we have here. So there's a constant rhythm going all the way down. Frankly, we think it's very elegant. It looks a lot better. We can go to the next slide and skip one over as well if we can. So this is kind of a blown up graphic of all the items. So we're preserving the curved wide entry, the curved entry here. We don't have a break. We actually ended up inserting a break between these two buildings to satisfy the fire marshal, but that allows us then to not punctuate anything through. We were showing a really wide sort of break here, and we were going to have like a little trellis area and things like that, because we thought that staff said, look, try to invite people on here, make it welcoming. And so we had that here. We've taken that away at staff's request and narrowed up this trail. But the idea is that this trail should be inviting to get people back into this area here. So we've kind of adhered to staff's recommendation on that. And then again, you can sort of see the wall coming all the way down. Next slide. And then this is what it would look like along Old Reston Avenue. So again, the old historic portion of the wall in this general area, then it kind of picks up here, and this becomes the new portion of the wall going down the hill. So that's the first issue. I don't know if I've summarized it or.
I'm not here for this.
Okay.
So you want to get rid of the CMU wall, replace it with a new brick wall that looks similar to the original, the historic brick wall.
Right. And I don't think, staff definitely had an opinion about us punching through the original part of the wall. And they said as much in the, but they have not made an opinion on, they haven't expressed an opinion on this at all. I think they're just, I don't know, Denise.
But have we dated the wall?
It was constructed sometime between 1960s and 1970s.
CMU wall.
The CMU wall,
CMU.
yeah, it's about 1975.
I thought you weren't here for this.
I'm not, I'm just like, a member of the public, I would say based on.
And so-
Then the brick wall is contemporary with the original.
But it's
house.
painted brick,
Yes.
which is just like maintenance. I mean,
Well, they don't want to just do anything to the brick wall. They want to get rid of the CMU wall.
yeah, but then they want to build a brick wall and paint it white.
Correct.
I don't want any CMU wall. I'd rather just have no wall, personally, because if you're taking out that wall, that's the 1970s wall, why, it's already a bit of a lark in
Yeah,
its
I
own
don't- I
right
don't
there,
need to keep
personally.
I don't need to keep the wall.
Say again, Denise?
75. Says 50, it's 50
The
years.
50, so 50, the 50-year rule is not a rule.
I didn't say it was could consider historic, but if we don't find any historical, I mean, people saying we're used to seeing it, we like it, is not historic significance. That's just, we like seeing it. Okay, if it serves like a purpose in the community, safety, then like, okay, I'm okay with the wall, but I know it's funny, you mentioned in the very beginning this, and white keeps coming up. But like, the decision to make everything white, this is not Mount Vernon, but it reminds me of Mount Vernon in that, do we want to interpret this building from the 19th century, when it was built by the gentleman that passed away, or from the 20s, the Bowman, who it's named for, 1923. And do we know if it was when it was painted? What's the earliest photograph we have of it? Maybe historically this whole thing should be red brick and it should be returned back to its Piedmont inspired glory instead of this whitewash, which someone probably did because of maintenance, because they didn't want to repoint the brick, or because they wanted to, maybe they wanted to update it during neoclassicism when they thought white was so popular. Let's make it neoclassical, let's paint it white. But again, that was like the Williamsburg interpretation of neoclassical that wasn't based in it. So I don't know, like, it's like, well, I can't make any decision about a wall if I don't, like, the resource here is the home. And we're not talking about it at all. And I don't,
We talked about it a lot last
We
time
did?
when you were here.
Okay,
Yeah,
nobody-
we did talk about it a lot
like,
when you were.
so what, but nothing's happening to it. It's not improving at all. It's not becoming, it's,
Well, right now, the Apple wants to leave the site, which, and APMA has been using it, and based on the amount of time I've been here, APMA has been using that historic site as a space that is actually much better to talk with and do counseling with grieving families that APMA deals with as an agency.
yeah, and they kept the lights on
Yeah.
and found a use for it, which is really
Yeah,
great.
so that, but they find it to be a more comforting thing as opposed to an office building that has a home-like feeling to it. So they have continued to use that historic property as opposed to just building, even when they were doing the
Yeah,
new
no, I
redesign.
mean, I appreciate that, but I just,
Well, when we talked last time, it was about turning this into townhomes and that house being a home again.
but like I said, we don't regulate use, so I'm not gonna base any of my decisions on what the house is being used for.
But we do in the zoning sense of things, actually, because if we can give opinions on the zoning process, we can
I'm
say it can be
okay.
used this way.
Personally, I'm not gonna base any of my architectural historic preservation decisions based on use unless they're asking for something that's not as of right, like a zoning appeal. Okay, then I think that we do use our guidelines for preservation to weigh in on things that are not as of right. But what I'm saying is, I would like to see this historic resource enhanced and some real effort being put into researching it and bringing it back to how it looked historically. And I don't know if that is 1899 or that's 1923, but I mean, just like a little bit of research, like so much has come up. And I don't know, I think it's a missed opportunity.
I mean, that's definitely a valuable opinion to provide from our board member who was not here for this.
About the house when it was painted white?
Yeah,
Yeah, because it may have been painted
Paint
white.
analysis.
paint analysis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can look in our files and see what we have.
You don't need a permit to paint.
We could look in our files and see what I have. I don't know what.
To your
what
question
information I
about
have.
chance for this is going through a zoning process. So this is a chance for the board to inform the zoning process affecting a historic property. So this is obviously the time where we can press on that. And I mean, I vocally conveyed that about chopping it up into little units. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be successful for it, but I mean, trying to keep it on focus here to the question about the wall. I mean, the wall's not on the inventory, is it, Denise?
No, I mean, the only thing that I would say is that there's a context and a setting that the house currently sits in. Is the wall on the inventory? No. Is the wall part of the, see, I don't even know this. Is the, at least the historic wall part of the parcel that goes with the house?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be part of the inventory site, yeah, the landscape that the house currently sits on.
We don't know if it's a contributing, right now, it's not
Yeah.
listed at all in any way on the inventory.
The wall itself, but the wall is part of the parcel that that the historic house sits on. So it would be part of that property.
I get it, but it's in my opinion, it's the 1960s addition wall.
Oh,
to
I'm
the
sorry,
site.
I was talking about the
Oh,
historic.
no, the historic brick wall dates to the site, to the original house, so I get that. But the additional wall was in my mind, it sounds like a 1960s contrivance to continue the theme and just continue building along.
And is that wall functioning as a fence or is it functioning as a retaining wall?
I think it's just a fence, isn't that right, Chuck?
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Swan.
Yes, I was not less on the historical story. Being a resident that live at the Sycamore condominium for a year, I have been up and down of that old Western Avenue long enough. I was looking at this more of a streetscape perspective, as well as the memory serving me. The white wall is a characteristic of that streetscape. It kept going and continue even on the center block portion and keep going around the pond beyond this major lot. And the Distill building is also was painted white, even now is kind of abandoned now. So like walking along that old Reston Avenue from south to north, the memory serving is very, it's always in my head, even though just leave it there for a year, that white wall stretch from the WOD trail all the way to Temporary Road with the steel building white on the other side, and the mansion is inside of the wall that we never get to. It's very deep, like you can't continue remember that. So I was a little bit debating of taking out the center block wall or keep it just because of the streetscape. Like if we take out that nearly two, I don't know if you reserve the one that along the pond. You do, okay.
And that one we're actually reconstructing as well.
Oh,
Basically in the same spot.
okay.
But that needs some maintenance, and that's also a CMU
That's
wall.
a CMU,
So
right.
what we're trying to do is do it brick all the way down.
So in front of the pond, it won't be bricks. There's some constructability concerns relative to how close it is to the pond, and also the sidewalk that we're going to be putting there for the connection to the WNOD. So it's going to end up being, what is it, Jack? Like, it'll be a nice white fence that's sort of characteristic to the area, but we just can't build it. There's just not enough room and constructability given the stormwater function of the pond. But everywhere else, we totally agree.
Well,
Yeah, I am on this debate myself, like the CMU portion of the wall, if stretched to the pond, that is like 2/3 of this streetscape. So keep it is the very safe way, so the streets probably will look the same as what in my memory. Take it out may open up some possibilities. I didn't offer you any answer because I am really struggle on either way. I didn't hear clearly, but do you propose a sidewalk along this wall?
Mm-hmm.
You do. That's throwing the design in different perspective, because my memory serves, I always walk on the other side of the whole West Avenue and look at this side and admiring it. So
if we can go back one, maybe it's another one. I'm sorry. Let's keep on going. Forward? Forward, yeah, I'm sorry. And I think, one more, I'm sorry. So yeah, we're doing the streetscape, we're doing the sidewalk because the county has asked us to put that in. And then we're bringing, I think in all the conversations that we've had, people like the wall. And it provides kind of a bucolic view as you're going down and up. But it's also a unified thing because the distillery building that's on the other side of the street in this location is white. And that thing is falling apart, unfortunately. So absent intervention, but that's an old building. The switching station that's at the WNOD trail here is white. The gazebo is white. And so I don't know when the house was painted, but it might have been painted 100 years ago, white. So either way, we're kind of taking it as it is and trying to respond to what's there today. And I think that providing the wall, I think, is an elegant approach to maintaining that bucolic view as you're coming up Old Reston Avenue. At least that's the receptivity that we've received from others when we're talking about it.
So, I mean, thinking practically so we can keep the conversation moving for you. So you think you've addressed the first concern from staff about penetrating the original brick wall. So, and I'm not hearing any concerns from anyone on this about, hey, no, definitely don't hurt the original wall. We all seem very happy with that. So that's great to hear about that. The CMU wall seems to be a point of significant contention. It seems to be aesthetically pleasing to many, is what I'm hearing. But there's also the question of it's from this board's perspective of a actual property, where does it fit in the language? And I think that gives some credence to Ms. Hammock's comments about trying to understand all the properties on the site and how they connect, because that even gets into the questions about the gazebo and its relation to the other properties. So I believe that was moved there too. So there's a lot of hodgepodge going on there, but I'm trying to get down to what you're more asking, are we okay with the idea of replacing the wall with a facsimile that would move further inward, and still having that same aesthetic? Or, are we, diehard original CMU walls?
No.
Better see it there.
We'll follow myself for CMU.
And I'm not seeing a lot of strong opinions on that front. So I don't think we have a lot of feedback to offer on the CMU wall. Taking that in, I just want to keep you moving towards your different items since I know we've got.
And, well, I was just.
Oh, go ahead, Ms.
I
Megan,
know we
sorry.
talked last time about the requirement for the sidewalk, because what I'm seeing is a lot of sloping, topography, and all of that's going to get leveled out. And I don't know if there's any flexibility on the requirement to have the sidewalk. Is that an absolute hard and fast county or VDOT? Because you said VDOT owns a portion of the right of way, maybe all of the right of way. So, okay.
Yeah,
I would
it does.
suspect that's DPD's, the county's hard position.
The comprehensive plan calls for a sidewalk connection on both sides of Old Reston Avenue. It calls for a wider connection than what we're showing here.
Right.
What was approved in 2019 was a 5-foot wide with the standard landscape amenity panel, and that was seen as a compromise. And that was smaller than what the county initially wanted. And we really struggled to get it in there. And this time around, we're struggling to get it in there too. So we've gone back and forth. We talked about, is there another way to do it? Could we run it on the inside? But then we found out there's ADA accessibility issues because of the slope and topography. So there were going to be stairs here, stairs here, stairs here. Couldn't make that happen. And so I think what you will see in one of the later slides, the 5th item, is the staff approach is heavy landscaping on this side run the sidewalk on this side, heavy landscaping right behind the wall, and then do some heavy plantings in that landscape amenity plan. So it creates sort of a more rustic kind of look. It's not as suburban regimented. And I think that's actually going to be the best compromise I think we can do. It's certainly better than what we got approved in 2019.
And I think one of the big problems you're running into is instead you've got the Reston aesthetic from Reston's historic time period, and then you have a property that is pre-Reston and a failed attempt to create the town of Wheelie that is a very different aesthetic, and you have the fact that it's supposed to be a scenic byway, and so it's supposed to invite people into this different part of a community, and so you have really a departure from traditional Reston, but you're also proposing to make this into a townhome area, which is more traditional Reston. So you have two very conflicting periods that are kind of vying with each other. Because there's the whole Reston we want to make accessible. Everyone come here. Don't worry. The HOA will eventually put up signs that tell people they can't go in there. That's Reston standard. We want to make it accessible, but at the same time, no, don't come in my neighborhood. That being said, you're also dealing with the age of this house, and the environment's trying to be more estate-like, more grand in that sense of it's more rural, actually, because it's pre-town plus a distillery. So trying to mix all those style elements, I don't think you're ever going to find something that's going to be a perfect fit. But I think the more you try to make this cookie cutter, like you were saying, like having all these 5-foot offsets, it's going to take away the uniqueness of this avenue. So the more it can be a curated design, the better, because then it actually feels authentic isn't the right word, but definitely, at least in my mind, feels more unique as opposed to, oh, I'm just in another part of Reston. Oh, wait, is that a really old house in there?
We had those debates, I mean, the pushback, we've had those debates with FCDOT staff. And it is trying to thread that needle. This is in the transit station area, okay? The Reston Town Center. So there are these really urban kind of gridiron recommendations that we are supposed to adhere to just because we're in that boundary. And we've been pushing back and saying it is more of a rural character. It is different. So, and that's just been, yeah.
Yes, Ms. Hannah.
When I worked for the city of New York, I always told developers that you have to create a story, you have to create a narrative, and you have to sell that to the board. And I just found an article written by someone from the Herndon Historical Society, and she said that Bowman Jr. wanted to subdivide his father's lot into townhomes in the 60s. So maybe the story of Reston is not a failed bucolic mansion. Maybe the story of Reston is from very early on, I'm going to say the 60s is historic, this idea of development and reuse. And maybe, so that supports your proposal even more than the previous one from 1999 to create townhomes. And it kind of solves the marriage problem of, are we trying to make this, it's like almost a false history because it was a failed attempt, right? It didn't become Piedmont, it became Reston, which is townhomes. And then these are some of the, although it was failed by his son, the idea was one of the earliest townhomes of Reston. And so that's like a great story that I can find palatable. And I don't know if you knew that.
Can you please forward me?
Well, sure. I mean, the woman's name is Barbara Glackus, and it says that she works for the Historical Society of Herndon. I can send it to. Anyway, I don't think you're going to find like original plans. For all I know, it could have just been his idea. But I think then the history that you're honoring is like this history of reuse and development, and not this history of mansions in Reston. Anyway.
Thank you.
All right, how will we move on to your next step item challenge?
So let's move on to item 4, which is the reuse of the Bowman house. Okay, so we talked about the original building exterior is going to remain untouched. We talked about the ARB's role in that, carrying forward the 2019 proffers. The kitchen annex, which is this right here, would, if this were converted into a single family home, there would be a garage that would be sort of attached in front of this here. And then the sight lines from Old Reston Avenue, I mean, it's actually fairly quick, but it is a nice broad lawn right going there. Okay, so let's talk about the use. Again, it was converted to office back in the 80s, but it was renovated in 2009. So what we are considering right now, and what we're going to be moving forward with the proffers, and county staff has asked us to just hone in on one use, and I'll let Mika explain why that's not eminently knowable right now. I know we all want certainty in these things, but they want us to focus on one use. The uses that we have proposed are single family house, clubhouse, or office, and I want to walk through each of them just real quick. We talked about how the use of the house, it was consistently used as a house historically until it was converted to an office. We feel that there's a strong market demand among historically minded properties. The buyers that buy historically minded properties are generally eager to invest in and reside in restored properties that have character and authenticity, okay? And I think that based on EYA's successful portfolio of historic properties in the DMV area, they find that those people do maintain their homes with great care and affection and stewardship. And there are lots of examples of these across the region where you do have historic properties surrounded by new development, and it's a single family house and it works out very well. The second use that we have considered is the clubhouse use. Again, that could be used as a focal point for the community. The issue there, though, is there might not be enough townhouses to be able to support the ongoing maintenance of that particular thing. The other thing that we've talked about is, okay, what if we just gave it to the Reston Association or gave it to the Park Authority or whatever? But we have serious concerns about parking. And it's a very, very tight site. The amount of parking for special events in particular, there's no parking spaces around this area. That becomes a problem. And then lastly is the office use. That would be consistent with how the property's been used since the 1980s. It would continue without interior modifications. Again, nothing is going to happen with the exterior of the building, no matter the use. County staff had asked us to consider again, subdividing the building into into how many, residential condominiums, or strategizing about other uses that might work. But what it's going to come down to are the considerations that include parking, the compatibility of whatever that use is now that it's going to be surrounded by homeowners, the financing. We got to make this thing work financially. And really what this comes down to, it's going to be up to the owner of the property, what they end up doing with it. And then of course, market considerations. Mika, what am I missing on that?
No, I think, all of that is really pertinent. On the financing side, we have, AFMA is our JV partner in this deal. They own the house, and EYA has a fiduciary responsibility to AFMA and the Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association to do what is right by them. Now, we happen to believe that best option is a single family residence. And we think that there is a market for it here. You're a 5-minute walk to Reston Town Center and this spectacularly beautiful home, might not come on the size plot that a lot of these, historic homes typically do, but there is without a doubt a buyer out there that wants that proximity and that urban environment while still stepping out into what feels a very bucolic and historic site. So we feel very strongly that exists. That being said, having that office or clubhouse optionality, we need to look at it from all angles, and it's a backstop. But what I think is most important here, that Andrew mentioned at the beginning, is the exterior of the home will not change, right? And so, to the extent that there are parking use needs, in an office scenario, we're flushing all of that out. But beyond that, the home in and of itself will stay exactly as it looks today, save for putting a small little garage on the non-historic annex part of the home. So the aesthetic and the historic integrity of the home is paramount important to us, and it's what's happening on the interior that has already been compromised, is really what we're talking about from a use perspective.
Some of those uses are more ripe for neglect than other ones. A single-family house, if an owner, is less likely to be a situation for neglect compared to a clubhouse that if a association can't pay to maintain, will fall into neglect, and that could be a costly thing to maintain, even if the houses are at a really nice price point that you're bringing folks in. So, that would be my worry, is whatever use it is needs to be continue to maintain that exterior that, you're saying we're going to preserve, but if there's an owner who's not going to be invested in it, then we're going to slowly have demolition by neglect of something that, AFMA has been perfectly well maintained the exterior of. I think that's that's where the multi-family proposal, I have a hard time seeing how you could do that.
So no condo, we don't like the condo idea either. We're with you on that one. I think in terms of the neglect, I'm not concerned about it, and I'll tell you why. In the clubhouse scenario, which I agree with you, I think is least likely because it is economically challenging. If this is neglected by the condo association or by the HOA association, that impacts the value of every single townhome that is on the site too. So even if one day, let's say for sake of argument, I really don't think this will be the scenario, but for the sake of argument, let's say it's a clubhouse, and then the HOA, once they're up and running on their own, they decide this is not financially viable for us. They have an incentive to make sure that it looks good and is okay for their own safety and the safety of their families, and also for the value of their homes in and of themselves. So I share your concern. I don't think it is much of a risk at all.
What's the square footage of it?
It's just about 5,000 square feet. Yeah, it's large. It's quite substantial.
High ceilings. If I could add again, Jack McLaurin here sitting in the back row. That house is beautiful. AFMA should get a gold medal for the preservation and maintenance of that house. And when you walk inside that house, it is move-in ready. It is beautiful. The floors are polished, the base molds are painted. It is spectacular. And all these other scenarios other than single-family homes equal parking requirements, which take away from something. The garden in the office scenario is gone for the sake of a parking lot in more impervious area. So that's the sacrifice for something that sounds to me like nobody in this room really wants, but we have to fly these things up the flagpole and test them.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Jack. I think the first floor of the office is basically preserved. There have been some areas that, they had to remove, unfortunately, the spiral staircase for code requirements and office stairs, right? The second floor of the building, it is an office and it's sort of an open office space, and that's where the bulk of the work would be done. There's always a solution, and, with additional parking, we would relocate where we're proposing the garden. And we're working on sketches that will be part of our next submission, so you'll see all of that. But I mean, we think that it'll do a pretty good job, selling itself. We intend on opening our sales center for the townhomes in the house. Normally we have, a trailer on a construction site here. What better, amenity to show, what the townhomes could be by celebrating the home in and of itself. So the single family option is, our number one. We think it's consistent with the historic use. We think that it'll be a really great amenity and compatible use for the community. The others are options that we need to include because of our, fiduciary responsibility to AFPA and making sure that we have a backstop as, an unlikely alternative scenario. But this one is our favorite.
Did you know that there was a formal garden on site?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that was the inspiration, yeah.
In that location, in that general.
Yeah, I have an aerial from 1949
Yeah, that was the
through the
inspiration.
That's how we found
80s,
out
through
where
the
it was.
80s.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
So I guess Denise, this is a question for you. So county was pushing this multi-use.
I don't think that actually the county's pushing any use. They've come with a proposal for these proposals. So what I have is, the applicant is proposing either a clubhouse or a single-family detached dwelling for the reuse of the Bowman House. So that's it. And then the question to the ARB is, are these appropriate uses, or are there other uses that the applicant should consider?
Are there any other ideas from board members to that question? The county won't take it from you. The county's already doesn't want any more property, so that, and you're right, parking wise, that it's just not feasible for a county or a Reston property.
Well, let's talk it through. If we cut it up, you're gonna have to do access, you're gonna have to alter the windows to make egress.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have to do fire stops. I mean, a single family use is gonna require the least amount of upgrades to meet current fire safety, zoning, whatever. So I think that what the applicant's proposing is what we would want to see. But, I mean, I know I came out of the gate a little aggressive, but to your point, sir, the current use, offices, has been really good. And it's kept the home and function and well preserved. So, almost more important than use is a really good, I'm losing the word, not stakeholder, steward of the property, which they had for years, which we should go on the record as saying that was really great. So if it needs to be offices in the future, that could be okay too, because it's been proven to be okay. But I think what the applicant's proposing, I don't have any issue with.
Any other?
On the subject of egress, I was just thinking, is for the second floor offices, were there already things added on for emergency egress?
There's a second fire stair that had to be put in.
Okay, so there is something existing.
Yeah, and like Mika said, the original circular stair in Grand Foyer was replaced with a fire rated, typical U switchback stair, which is unfortunate. And I did some drawings of what it would look like as a single family, and honestly, it was easy. Let me demo the demo and put it back the way it was. It was kind of an easy exercise.
And I think the single family use is ideal use or, single steward, dedicated. I think my only concern, and obviously you know more about doing market research and whether there is a buyer for this type of property, is, that it's the grand house, but not with a grand, expansive landscape.
There are 17 pools and over 24 tennis courts in Reston. Once you join the Reston Association, you get access to all of them.
Like, we wouldn't want someone to purchase this home and then come to us and say, I just paid $14 million for this home, and like, I want a solarium and all these things. And then we're like, oh, no, we don't want any of that on this historic home. But so we don't want, I mean, that would be like partially irresponsible to like sell them a bill of goods that was, and I mean, and I was wondering, like, could we not we can't put a preservation easement on this property?
I brought that up to you last time you were here about putting an easement on.
We've talked about that. That's something that we've considered, that we're considering right now.
All right. And then, yeah, if it reverts back to single family, then I would like to see some of the necessary and unsensitive alterations removed, and some, some nice windows and a little bit of research, and let's make it look, as good as we can.
Well, I think you're hearing that at least the single family and the office idea, we are very supportive of. I think there's some reluctance on the prospect of it being the clubhouse, just because that's a big clubhouse and you'd have to really have a community that wants something like that. But I mean, I don't know if there's any other input you want on this idea, or if we're giving you what you need on this one. I just want to keep it, I'm not trying to move you out, but I'm trying to keep it moving, just respecting time.
Which is quick.
So you say.
I mean, the question was, are these appropriate uses, or are there other uses that the applicant should consider? And I feel like that question has been answered. Okay.
Last item, next slide. And it's easy. The old Reston Avenue streetscape. This was a high contention from, I don't even need to go through all of this. The bottom line was, we got direction from staff. I don't need to go through it. Let me go through it. We got direction from the staff to reserve the existing white wall. Most important, it's okay to have breaks in the center block wall. Okay, we talked about that. Tree preservation, you'll love this. Where there are conflicts between the sidewalk and critical root sets or existing trees, prioritize the sidewalk. We already heard what VDOT wants to do with the trees, right? The other ones that matter. The lawn between the Manor House and Old Reston Avenue, remove this lawn from the urban rec space. It's too private. Instead, the gazebo should be the focus of the urban rec space. That said, the opening at the transition to the existing wall where it transitions to new is important for public access. We talked about that one little thing that takes you all the way back. So that's what that's getting at. So, okay, next slide. On November 5th, after going back and forth with staff provided us the vision that they've talked about internally that they would like us to consider. We have considered, yes, it was very helpful.
Like, why did they just lead with that?
And what they're looking for is, and I think they're trying to thread the needle as well, where our houses are located, what VDOT will allow in their right of way, and then how do you get that more bucolic, kind of rustic, unkempt kind of landscape. So they said, we want to do a 6-foot wide sidewalk, so box checked on pedestrian connectivity, outside of the wall. Inside the wall, between the wall and the houses, overload that with plantings. And then you can have, 5-foot sidewalk if you need it. And then my favorite part also, basically is the planted slope, where you could have some tickweed, you could have some other types of things that are just not, green arborvitae, like stuff that you see with the typical suburban stuff. So that's what they gave us. And we go to the next slide. And so what you'll see on this side is kind of what we're going back with, which is identical to what staff has suggested. And if you go back to the 2019 approval, in the staff report, it says that sidewalk is a compromise, and it kind of inferred no one's happy with it, but this is what we're doing. I think with this is a far better approach than what we did in 2019, and is probably the best possible compromise that we can all agree on between staff and the applicant. So this was an issue when staff issued their sort of list of issues. They haven't seen or they don't know yet that we've studied it and that we are in agreement, because we haven't resubmitted or telegraphed it to them. So that's that's the story of that. I don't know, Denise, if I'm missing.
Denise, is there any question for us? To weigh in on?
It's a landscaping, Old Western Avenue is designated as a Virginia byway, and the mature trees located along the site's Old Western Avenue frontage are proposed to be removed. In staff's opinion, the trees and landscaping may have contributed to the scenic and historic viewshed along Old Western Avenue. Are there concerns with the removal of trees? However, we've heard that there's no, VDOT's not going to allow anything but the removal of the trees, so.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I'm concerned about the removal of the trees too, but it sounds like VDOT is basically like, too bad, so sad.
And is that because they can't exist with the sidewalk?
Well, they can't exist with sidewalk, but they're also in the right of way. VDOT does not like trees in the right of way.
It's a sightline concern.
VDOT is the ones.
I mean, I'm gonna put
They are the
public
hardcore
safety
ones.
over greenscape.
Sorry. The way that we've gotten around this is,
No.
if you don't mind going back, there's an elevation earlier in the presentation. So with the trees on the interior of the wall, they will still be, when they're 10 to 15 years old, they will be around this height. So they will get back to that, ultimately what we're trying to maintain, that bucolic feeling. Now, the trees will be behind the wall, so you can have public safety and tall trees, and so that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But this is, to scale with the trees and their ultimate, not these blob of green essentially, but, the sycamore is always similar too. We're still finalizing exactly what that is, but the intent is that we're matching that overall.
I just want to be out there. If we could go to the photo of the existing condition, there is a chance by putting the sidewalk out there that the bottom of that wall gets exposed. You're going to have to meet the grade. That sidewalk's going to have to somehow get the grade. So you saw in the original proffer, it said if it's modified, to be modified in accordance with its original design, which we would do. But there's a chance when that grade lowers in order to build the sidewalk that we have to then go and it's not underpinning the wall, but it's basically the same thing. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Removing the wall is not an option, just not having the wall at all.
The CMU part is an option.
No, just like no retaining wall there, just land.
But then people will.
There are a lot of people that like that.
They're gonna come up and make their own path in your grass. And,
Okay, no, I'm just putting it out there, no.
They want to control how people get into the site.
Yeah, okay.
I think for the CMU portion of the wall, what Jag was saying, we're constructing that new, so the risk of having it be, it's a brand new wall. I think he's mostly talking about, the portion that's off.
Yeah.
Right, which is flatter, but still, you could be exposing the foundation, which means we have to veneer it.
Yeah.
Right,
The
you can't put a sidewalk on that.
Right.
Something's got to happen.
Yeah, without getting into too much detail on the topography, it is extremely challenging on the site, and it is, cross slope and in every direction that you could possibly think. And so maintaining the ADA compliance by having the sidewalk follow the road has been how we've been able to solve for that. But making sure that we're doing so and how it undulates, in front and behind the wall. The photos don't do it nearly the justice, but it's been quite a task, and so that's just making sure that we preserve the integrity of the wall while still being able to execute on the sidewalk requirement is something that's been really important to us.
But I guess to staff's concern though, it sounds like even if there was an interest in saving trees, VDOT has given the indication that there will be no trees. So to that fifth concern of y'all's, we could agree that maintaining as many trees as possible is great, which I think we would generally as a board. But if VDOT's not, I don't think we have a leg to stand on in that kind of argument here, Just generally speaking about that.
And the final, if we can go back to the side-by-side image of what's proposed. The final question is, does ARB support, and keep on going the other way.
Streetscape?
Yeah, back down the streetscape, just to put the pin on it, the pin in it, all the way down, all the way to item 5.
The sections.
Yeah, the sections. Next one.
Keep going.
Next one.
Almost, there we go.
So, yeah, the last question is, does ARB support this streetscape? That's a specific question from the staff.
I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, go right ahead, Ms. Wong.
Yeah, although I've been struggling, yes or no, I think so far this is the best compromise, the solution. I was more leaning toward supporting it.
Yeah, and I was seeing some head nodding from everyone else that this seems like the
And
best.
Ms. Huang lives in Preston, so I value your opinion because you're like.
I
live there too.
attached to it
I value her opinion.
She likes the CMU world too.
She apparently walks by on Reston Avenue all the time.
Because you see the space in all four seasons and
I did.
during different traffic densities, and I think that's really important.
Would there be any concern about water retention and root interference with the wall, pushing the wall out potentially as we plant on that side?
No. We would work with species that didn't do such a thing and make sure they're appropriate, but no. And the wall would be weeds like it is today.
We have a great landscape architect.
Well, I mean, and in the
on
end,
board.
the site plan and these types of things, if this goes forward, this is gonna come back to us. So we,
Okay, well,
if so, I will say to help you a little bit, Ms. Hammond, this would come in a design,
Yeah.
would come to us. So
Yeah.
we would have some chance to provide them with input on those types of ideas. And Joe could dedicate a significant amount of his time to sharing his wisdom.
He's recusing himself.
Oh, he has to recuse himself. Oh,
wow. But he could summarize his thoughts maybe in an email.
an excellent landscape.
Oh, wait, he works for them. Oh, there we go. That's why he can't be here.
Wow, look at
Never
you.
mind.
Wow.
Oh. I didn't see the 39,
Yeah,
I didn't see
can
39
that.
studios over there. So I
I'm
didn't
sorry, do I
realize
need to
where-
speak into the mic? Excellent.
This is good. We have one more slide, the best one of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. And you know, we're just getting responses back to our first round of comments. I mean, our planning commission public hearing on this is probably going to be sometime in the first quarter, second quarter of next year. We'll be back in front of you all.
So
I want to see a picture.
I wanted
of the
to ask
window.
this, AFMA's still actively using the site. I know they did a lot of remote transition to some of their stuff. Would they allow a site visit to see that house? I would really like, I personally would like to see it.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that would be, you
We have
know,
to advertise.
well, if more than three of us show
Oh,
up, yeah,
you
if
could
we
set.
set, we have to set. But it would, if they would be amenable, because I know it's obviously, they work in a very sensitive field, so you don't want to interrupt that business, but
Are you gonna bring a paint test kit?
I'm not. Ms. Hammock may, Ms. Hammock may.
You could hire.
I just would like, I mean, I've seen it plenty of times when I drive by it, I've never seen inside it, you know, so. it'd
Yeah.
be-
I saw the distillery was painted, it was built in 34, and it says it was painted.
Right, but it
So it
wasn't
could've
white
been-
probably, there's probably some earth in tone.
You know, when the distillery was built, I think it was painted.
Oh.
So maybe they painted, I did the same thing. I've spent 45 minutes trying to see, there's no history
Yeah.
that
It could have been
ChatGPT knows
painted
about.
in the 20s. It also could have been whitewashed
Yeah.
because there was no titanium white, so it was probably like a different type of paint than, anyway. Maybe it was, you know, very early on white.
I think it would definitely help in the future, because then it would help us, if that's something that AFMA is amenable to, that would be something we could set up with Denise to set up a visit from, we'd have to do public notice about if we had a significant collection of membership. But it's a resource that has come back, Ms. Orr and Mr. Kalinsky, remember the 2019 reviews that we did on it. And so it would be, I think, would help from that angle. Yeah.
Well, thank you all.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least on our presentations, the Centerville Suburban Center Study, Land Unit B5.
I need to go to the ladies' room, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for being so patient, Laura.
Well, you know it's not my strong suit. But it was really interesting to see the sneak preview of what they're proposing. That was nice, and here I am, and good news for everyone in this room. My presentation takes about 37 minutes. It's been a while. I hope everyone's great. I am gonna share. Yes, please.
You're on.
Fantastic. I'm here tonight to discuss, or at least to present to you all, the Heritage Resources Branch's comments on land unit B5. Here we go. Now we're cooking. Land unit B5 in the Centerville Historic Overlay District as part of the larger Centerville Planning Study. Okay, so like I said, I'm presenting the Heritage Resources Branch position on land unit B5 located in the Centerville HOD. This map shows the HOD outlined in purple and the land unit highlighted in yellow. I will refresh your memory about the Heritage Resources component of this study and reiterate what the Centerville Task Force envisions for the HOD, proposed draft plan language for land unit B5, and present Heritage Resources recommendations based on current zoning ordinance and draft recommendations in the Centerville Design Guidelines. In summer 2024, HRB staff, which is Heritage Resources staff, so shorthand, now that I've explained it, will take longer than me actually just going ahead, conducted a pedestrian level field survey of the Centerville study area. This work was completed in fall 2024 and resulted in draft updated Heritage Resources Plan language, including the identification of late 20th century residential developments and unique individual resources like the DeBell Sunnyside House and Mountain View High School. This proposed language was submitted to the project team in spring 2025, and thereafter I presented our findings to groups like the Architectural Review Board, the Fairfax County History Commission, and the Centerville Task Force. We are currently in the review phase of the proposed draft plan language submitted by the study team, and anticipate the end date of the study and task force coordination in December 2025. The Centerville HOD was established as a Fairfax County Historic Overlay District in 1986 in recognition of its historic significance as a late 18th century crossroads village, later occupied by both Union and Confederate troops during the Civil War. The boundaries of the HOD were expanded in 2007, increasing in size from 17 acres to 84 acres. The expanded district included Civil War earthen fortifications, properties within the platted town of Centerville as created by a 1792 Act of the General Assembly, the 18th century Royal Oaks farm site, architecturally or culturally significant early to mid 20th century properties, and archaeological sites. The Centerville HOD includes a total of 34 historic or contributing resources, including 13 historic archaeological sites, 2 contributing archaeological sites, 10 historic buildings, 5 contributing buildings, 2 contributing accessory buildings, and 2 contributing structures per the 2024 revised draft design guidelines. Centerville's historic architectural resources date from circa 1783 Mount Gilead to contributing resources constructed in the 1930s and 1940s. The buildings primarily front Route 29, Braddock Road, and Mount Gilead Road, and are typically constructed of wood or stone, ranging in height from 1 to 2.5 stories. Most buildings are rectilinear in form with simple massing, few projections, mostly symmetrical fenestration, and gabled roofs. The building shares similar character in terms of size, scale, and use. Like the architecture, the landscape elements of Centerville are essential to the character of the HOD. The landscape setting in the HOD is generally semi-rural and natural in character, with open fields and wooded areas representing Centerville's agrarian roots. Mature trees remain at Mount Gilead and the former Royal Oaks farm properties, which is now an archaeological site. The earthwork structure and remnants of fortifications across the district represent Centerville's significant role in the Civil War. Now, as part of the larger Centerville planning study, planning and development staff have identified land unit B5 as an opportunity area where future land use recommendations may be considered. Subunit B5 is located along the north side of Route 29, east of its intersection with Route 28, which is Sully Road, and lies within the Centerville Historic Overlay District. The area is currently developed with a variety of automobile-oriented retail and commercial entertainment uses, each with separate access points along Route 29 and Sully Road. This graphic shows land unit B5 as delineated by the red dashes superimposed over the existing HOD, which is colored in yellow. Now this is the handout you all have if you want to read along because it's lengthy. Within subunit B5, planners have identified this specific section as a focus area for redevelopment. The draft comprehensive plan language, which is proposed and still under consideration, states, as a plan option, mixed-use development is encouraged, including up to 60,000 square feet of retail commercial space, 42,000 square feet of office, and up to 225 multifamily residential units, provided the redevelopment conditions for the opportunity areas and following conditions are met. First, site design should be a gateway to the Centerville Historic District. Redevelopment should be oriented in a manner that invites and connects pedestrians with historically significant amenities in the area. Next, appropriate signage and wayfinding design elements should be provided to help orient and navigate users to the HOD and its amenities. An internal grid of streets should be provided to allow for future interparcel access to the north, an east-west connection, and a well-designed interface with adjacent HOD properties. Access to future trail and or pedestrian connections is encouraged. Building mass, heights, and site design should respect the Centerville HOD guidelines to the extent feasible and reflect the relationship of development to the undeveloped Centerville Historic Overlay District. Because this land unit is located in the HOD, and that is your purview, and you all know it inside and out, I want to say again, or reiterate the goals of HODs. From the zoning ordinance, points F and G, to prevent the encroachment of new buildings or structures and additions or attachments to existing structures that are architecturally incongruous with the visual and historic character of the district. Point G, to ensure that new development and structures within the district are appropriate. And from the Centerville Design Guidelines, to protect the historic and aesthetic integrity of the historic and contributing structures, and to ensure that both the immediate and secondary surroundings provide this protection. I went to a second page. Okay. So as previously mentioned, the design guidelines recommend small footprint buildings of 1 to 2.5 stories to maintain the semi-rural character of the district. Additionally, the zoning ordinance restricts building heights to a maximum of 35 feet. The 35-foot restriction is in place in 13 of the 16 HODs in Fairfax County. Heritage Resources staff are concerned with the proposed density and how a maximum of 225 residences can fit within the land unit without potentially amending the zoning ordinance to increase the maximum allowable height. Additionally, there are 15 designated archaeological sites present throughout the HOD, including tanyards, cemeteries, a former tavern site, house and store sites, multiple earthworks and other Civil War sites, and Civil War era encampments. There remains a high probability for the discovery of additional archaeological sites and features of significance within HOD boundaries. Additional sites which have yet to be discovered may be identified and included in the future. The HOD also has potential for pre-contact archaeological sites. The zoning ordinance states, in addition to in an additional standard specific to Centerville, any new improvements must be designed to be sensitive to archaeological resources as well as the historic character of the area. So the staff comments presented to the planning study team are as follows. The Centerville HOD abuts one development located along the northwest border of the district, named the Village at Mount Gilead, constructed circa 2005, comprised of detached single-family dwellings. Additionally, a neighborhood comprised of single-family dwellings, Walney Glen, constructed 1993-1994, is located between two extending pipe stem portions of the district boundaries. Currently, no multifamily housing is located within the boundaries of the Centerville HOD. The Centerville HOD, again, is characterized by historic crossroads, small footprint buildings, and expansive open spaces. The proposed increase in residential density does not adequately ensure that new development in the district is appropriate, nor does it maintain the visual and historic character of the district. Staff recommend that comprehensive plan language continue to honor the stipulations outlined in the zoning ordinance, specifically the 35-foot height limit, to maintain the character and historic significance of the HOD. And I do want to say something before I go to the last slide, which is the questions and comments slide.
Is that report from the Heritage staff that you just read?
Yes.
Heritage staff,
Yeah.
and that's your.
I want to give credit to, shout out Mike Burton back there, because these are mostly.
That's, sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's Laura.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right, so that's Fairfax.
The Heritage, Laura, Denise and Laura are the Heritage branch.
So
Among
I'm just
the-
trying to,
among staff here.
who wrote those comments?
I did.
You
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry. The gentleman was like talking about, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So those are your findings.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's in response to what y'all heard last week.
No, I
It's in
remember
response to what's on
that.
the
Your
slide.
presentation. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, now this has taken the wind out of the joke, so I'm just gonna move on. Anyway, shout out Mike Burton, we have in the back. Okay, so now questions and comments portion, and we would like to ask if the Architectural Review Board has any comments or questions to please submit them to the what time is it? Is it double digits? The Centerville Planning Team by December 1st. Okay.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take.
No, it's all right.
The three green buildings that you have as contributing, and I'm not as familiar with the HOD, and perhaps I should be, because I don't think we've really reviewed anything in it since I've been on the board, but, so what date are those green buildings from, and like, can you tell me a little bit more about them? Are they're commercial buildings, I take it?
Oh, the three come on.
So one is
One's a baker.
the second merchant tire in the Northern Virginia area is a 1950s.
Okay.
Cools.
Okay, so it's mid-century modern.
Mid-century modern. The little tiny building is, was a little restaurant, truck stop that moved around a little bit. So that's not its original location. It was on the other side of the other two greenhouses. The next greenhouse is a frame building that was built in the early 20th century as a general store.
Okay, so they're more reflective of the mid-century commercial nature of the street.
Yeah.
Okay, and the red buildings, were any of them built under the current master plan, or do they predate it?
They all predate it.
So under the current master plan, nothing has been successfully or initiated to be developed on this site?
The current comprehensive plan for Centerville dates back to the 90s.
So everything here predates
So
1990?
There was a rewrite of the comprehensive plan with the expansion of the historic district, and that happened just before 2008, and that's why there hasn't been anything done under it. And in fact, the ARB created a little video showing a variety of redevelopment scenarios under the densities that were stipulated in the comprehensive plan at that time and the guidelines.
Okay.
But I don't know where it is.
Where does that live?
It was on your website.
Oh,
I was gonna say on VHS.
right.
And then for my archaeologist member of the board, is the creme de la creme to just keep everything in the ground and don't touch it?
Highest and best is yes. So that's when you were mentioning compatible uses with archaeological sites. I was like, not digging them up?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because I guess that circled area around encampment site winter quarters, and I thought that's what you were saying was prime for, or part of what's prime for redevelopment. But I would be so curious what this video shows, but I was like, because we talked last time about the red buildings being like.
That's what we want to.
Okay,
We
got it.
want to push them off of the site, but let them go up, potentially to
Have them
take
at
the
the
pressure
edge,
off the
right.
archaeology sites.
So only the red structures would be, and specifically those 3 parcels.
Okay.
The 4 with the bank would be where we encourage the redevelopment.
Okay. Got it, okay, thank you. But yes, highest and best would be don't touch the archaeology. For things that, you know, I think we talked about a trail that might come in proximity to the ditches or the berms that are still left from the Civil War era, that at least there's something interpretive that you can point them out and hopefully some level
Right, and
of.
there's photographs that.
Exactly, but.
Like a cyclorama type thing.
But I will say with people knowing what's
I know, that's
there
fine.
are also the people who are going to be inclined to try to use their metal detectors
Oh,
and
that's true.
dig their own holes. And I don't know what kind of
Yeah, zealots.
protection or oversight is going to be available to actually monitor to make sure people don't do those kinds of
Yeah.
activities. So yes, looting and vandalism are also a concern when you have development in proximity to archaeological sites. So.
And if you ID a site with interpretation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always a
Right.
difficult choice to make.
So I'm going to say, I have issues with the existing plan language. It's not, we should not respect the HOD guidelines, we should follow the HOD guidelines.
That is working draft plan
I
language.
know, I'm just
Okay.
going to say that. If there's no risk, you will. It's an HOD, you will come to this board, you will abide by the guidelines. That is the way it operates. There is no developer gets a courtesy, I guess you respected it, good job. No, you get to come here. And I want to be on record in saying, no, I do not want the height to increase here. I think it was very clear, particularly Mr. Burns expressed hesitancy about it. And those numbers, that we will create a monolith that will be very visible. I mean, right now, do I love those buildings right there? Maybe not, those red ones, but they're low. They're not dense, and they are working right now with the existing kind of motor engagement. I mean, the town store is still a thriving cafe. We have shops directly next to it. It's, you know, Centerville had that transportation hub kind of vibe to it, and that's working very well. Adding a very dense structure of housing is going to add a wholly new type of development to this HOD. That is a trend throughout the entire county. That is a very different dynamic than what has ever been in Centerville, and is going to put it heart and center on the doorstep of the HOD. And I think we were being too kind perhaps last time to say when we were, you know, we're trying to be the board of yes and being open-minded, but I'm also not going, oh, we'll just come in and we'll just exempt the heights or extend the heights in this HOD. They're there for a reason. And particularly when the aesthetic, the further you go into the HOD, is one of trying to still have that rural environment. Any building that's going to try to capture that many units, it would be astounded if you could design it in a way that it wouldn't be super visible and very apparent. And it's also going to create a lot of impact that would also, in my mind, put pressure on the archaeological sites and push more development towards them, because I think that is an encroachment on them too. It right now has a use that I think is more ideal this environment. So I think the draft, and I know it's not you writing it, Laura. I'm just frustrated because having just listened to another presentation talk about a comp plan and saying, I don't know how that proper language got taken out. The Restonians must have not liked it. If you had sat on that panel, you would have known every Restonian would have jumped on a landmine for that property. And the fact that someone says it was pulled out, that wasn't Restonians that pulled it out, or it was a singular Restonian that suggested it, because the planning process is complicated and involves way too many people, and so that stuff gets lost. But I think the big call that I put in here is that we've been asked if we have comments. I'll just put it on record right here. I don't like the concept of a height exemption in this HOD. The height was set by the guidelines. It's appropriate to the guidelines. It should not get a buy. It should be the height that it is already set. And a developer, if they are classy enough and well thought enough, could work with that in a way, and we should find that video to show them. So go, look, we already fought that idea. So there's my 10 cents, there's my soapbox. Yes, Ms. Horn.
Okay, I do have a slightly different idea. About that height, losing it, not quite sure where I am yet. But because of that height, we can see Centerville, basically all the building is kind of, they go horizontal development. There is another way of designing the streetscape using the FAR, the floor area ratio. And I would be more interesting to see how we play with that number. And in comparison of, that is a very strange intersection because the commercial is on the other side and most of the Centerville is kind of like really flat. So it perhaps not directly loosen 35 feet high, that's very flat. But using FAR as a tool to encourage some design creativity here.
I mean, I think it's tough to like get in developers' minds as to like, why has this site laid dormant? I mean, I think the green buildings, it's interesting how they meet the road and they engage directly with the road, and the red buildings have the parking lot right in front. I think this site could be better designed under the current guidelines. I don't know, we're like trying to fix the guidelines, but I don't know if that's the reason why this hasn't been redeveloped. I think it could be redeveloped under the current guidelines and be much better. And I mean, I don't know why, but is it our job to force it? I guess I'm, you know, like if it, like eventually, yeah, someone is going to, you know, the cost of land in Northern Virginia is going up so much that like, it'll be worth someone's time to redevelop this based on our current guidelines. And then when it comes, we'll review it. Until then, it's going to be awkward.
Which is actually why it's in the historic district.
Because we think it's so right for redevelopment.
Extended, why it includes the 7-Eleven and the bowling alley.
Because we wanted to review whatever was built there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, till then.
Yeah.
I think though, the language that's in this draft considered language, a developer is going to go for whatever gets them the maximum amount of profit. And so they're going to go to build the most they can to fill the most units, the most square footage. They're not going to solely build for a aesthetic or a philosophical goal. They have a bottom line to reach. And these are big numbers. And for this parcel adjacent to a very flat rule setting HOD with when you get inside it. And so there's this, I think, illusion on the front that it's a very, you know, transportation facing side, but the further you go in, development here needs to be very controlled. And I'm worried that if we aren't very adamant about heights, there's multiple processes could happen here. And I don't want someone to think that, you know, the ARB is tacitly okay with just blessing height extensions. And our new guidelines aren't through yet, but I think they carry that forward, don't they, Denise? The same height considerations we had before.
So the 35-foot height limit is not actually in the design guidelines. It comes from the zoning ordinance itself.
Thank you, Denise.
It's in the zoning ordinance.
But your report doesn't support increasing the height. You feel it should stay.
Yes.
So I think we're in agreement.
But she's not the one proposing change.
And here's the thing, I'm just presenting you all the proposed language.
Yeah.
That is where we're at. Also, I just wanted to show you the zoning ordinance, what they say about HODs and the Centerville design guidelines and the footprints in Centerville, and remember what this is. I'm just telling you, I'm here to present.
Yeah, no, that was great. I think we agree.
We are, but DPD is not necessarily in alignment with that. Heritage may agree with our vision, but I don't think DPD necessarily does. And as someone who's gone through the task force process, community provides its input, but DPD has a larger vision in which heritage is a component to. And they eventually have to fall into alignment with whatever the directions is, even if they have objections. So while Denise and Laura and Jonathan and them can provide their comments, we as a board and as citizens can provide comments that are independent of heritage staff, that carry their own weight and do not fall within the structure of a planning department, which can provide recommendations and comments, but may be told, that's great, but we're still going to raise it to, I don't know, 50 feet. And, that's what we want to recommend.
Department of Planning and Development.
Sorry, I'm throwing an acronym at you.
So let's
Sorry.
Let's say the master plan says we want to increase the density here. It still comes to us and we don't have to approve it, even if it complies with the master plan.
But if the zoning changes to allow, or if we are seen to indicate we are okay with certain heights, then we're going to start getting applications that will eventually push into those conflicts. At least that's my understanding. Am I misunderstanding that? We're in a situation where if the zoning language gets changed, we could start running ourselves into a much stronger conflict between development.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like, that's why we exist, to be another layer of review on top of zoning. So I don't care about zoning. But yeah, I see what you're saying. We should, yeah.
So I think our chair should write a letter providing our comments about this personally, and he can't defend himself because he's not here. But I think Jason would also say if someone has comments on this, either you can, any citizen can provide their comments on it. But the board can also provide comments. So I think it might benefit someone from the ARB to comment on this if we have some concerns. And I know John Burns isn't here, but he also expressed some pretty significant concerns about that level of development there. I'll try to talk with Jason about it, but it's another part of Fairfax I've lived in, so I have a personal opinion about it, but I think it's something the ARB could opine on because it will help us in the future so that we aren't the board of no, we're the board of we advise zoning.
Yeah, we're the board of consistency.
Yeah, on the consistency. We've already, we informed the comprehensive plan process and we made sure it's stayed here, not there.
And just one more point of, sort of detail, and because you were saying that it was flat, and it isn't. That's the 29 is the high point, and it declines, there's a drop.
Yeah.
But then it also declines down, so that if you're on Mount Gilead Road, looking at the Royal Oaks landscape, you're looking up at it. And Royal Oaks was, on a high point. And so if you're going to put tall buildings behind that, they're going to be visible within the heart of the historic district.
Well, that's a better, I was thinking, when I say flat, I'm thinking just the buildings themselves are very short. Yes, but you're right. The topography of the site will
Low
also.
scale.
It's not a dramatic, but if you're in the along Mount Gilead Road, which is sort of in the grayed out area, and you're looking back towards 29, you're looking up.
Well, yes, but I also feel like with this 35 feet limitation, anybody getting into this land will try to get maximum out. So they will build wide. We always have a two of method to control what massing we're gonna get. One is height, and one is the total floor area we can get. So sometimes we get a very flat and big box, but we also can get a smaller footprint, slightly higher. So the same thing when I read all this, how many square footage or how many multifamily they want to propose, it's a big number, and my head starts spinning. What they going to look like in terms of Lego box size in this, and if we have a FAR number, then we can compare to this next to the lot next to it and see if they are really happily married together.
I agree. I had the same reaction reading those numbers. Like, I can't really envision that, but I know what an FAR of 1.0 looks like versus 0.3.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yes, Denise.
I had a quick question for the group because this is helpful for us. So I think the primary question that I have is whether the concern is directly with, or initially I did, with the height versus the quantification, which is the amount of development that we're putting forth. The height piece, we don't have an express interest in recommending a higher height. We do offer flexibility in terms of design, so that if an applicant came forward and they were able to design a structure in a way, maybe it was 40 feet, but it was under the view shed, for example, from inside the HOD or out to the street, maybe that's acceptable. Either way, they would still need to come to you all. The second point is that the numbers are a maximum. They aren't a specific development proposal. So we are not expressly looking for 225 units. That's the amount of number of units that we tested for. And in that test, it gives us a sense of what the impacts are going to be to any infrastructure. So they could come in, for example, if we set an FAR, they could come in for less than that. I don't know if that's enough incentive for anyone to reinvest in the property, but the idea is to create interest and then to allow someone to be creative and to come to you all and see if that can work. And lastly, this wasn't sort of a direct recommendation from staff. This came out of a lot of engagement with our community task force, as well as other community members as a part of a workshop. They really want to see something change here, and not just with the development here. I think they want to make the HOD more visible, more visited, and this is one step to getting towards that. So there's a lot of flexibility.
That's a good point.
Any thoughts, responses to those?
You're saying here 60,000 and 42,000 and 225.
So the commercial piece is what's there today. So there's actually more development that's allowed on the site, more non-residential development. We reduced that in exchange for the residential use. So the commercial use and the office use is what's developed now. And we're envisioning the opportunity to perhaps add residential throughout or reallocate that commercial space and add residential above as an option.
But this lot here can only be commercial, correct?
Right now, it's only planned for commercial use, but as an option in the comprehensive plan, we're offering to add residential use. So the only new development that we're recommending go in is the 225 residential units. The commercial is already existing in terms of new space.
So adding 225 to that parcel that we're looking at right now.
To the 3 parcels that we're looking at right now.
With those red buildings already, let's say, the red buildings stay, I could add 225 houses.
If they were creative enough. Now, obviously, they have to meet, but here's the thing, they have to meet the other guidance, right? All of the other guidelines, not just the HOD guidelines, but zoning guidance and planning guidance. Maybe they can't make 225 units work. Maybe it's something less.
And we would want to keep the 3 green buildings, right? So that area, I mean, that's included in the site, but it's almost like a no-go, like, you don't want them to propose moving them or tearing them down.
So when you're saying it counts existing retail commercial space, those green buildings are counted in your commercial base square footage too.
Correct.
Okay. So taking your items right here, I don't see, even if the developer is creative, if we have a height limit, there is a height limit. That's where it is. Because once we start setting a precedent that there's flexibility to break that, then it's going to become a precedent everywhere. And I don't know how long you all were here for the lengthy meeting on Holland Hills. We have to be delicate about any precedent we set in Holland Hills because everybody and their brother architect will show up and say, well, you did this for this house in Holland Hills. If the ARB starts granting an exception every time to what is considered to be part of our guidelines, I think that's a dangerous slope to get into. My reaction is I don't want to create a scenario where we're going to have a developer saying, well, by right, I can do this. And I'm going to do this. And I know the process of getting through the review process, because yes, it does have to come to us. We can say no, they can still appeal that. So I worry because FAR does not mean as much to me as these numbers do, as I see this as an extreme densification. And I see words like grid of streets. Why does that have to be a grid? Could it not be just interconnecting streets? Why do we have to fit everything in this grid system, which is not something that has to be here in this portion of Centerville, which doesn't have a grid. It has much more meandering pathways. And why do we have to, there's so much language in this, and we're already way too late in the evening. I could pick apart it and give ideas, but I've also sat on a task force, and I'm just worried about what it's gonna set us up for in the future if we don't opine on stuff that really emphasizes the importance of doing something that is sensitive to the district here.
Wait, but I'm gonna counter that, because Holland Hills, every house is a freestanding residential house. And we're allowed to make decisions based on the unique setting of a site and public input. And you have done so much public input into this site, and you're telling me, and you told us last time and the time before, this is what the community wants, that we can use that to weigh in to our decisions and to not set a precedent, or say like, no, like this was a unique site. We listened to public input. We studied the site. There's never going to be another site like this in Centerville ever again. So when a developer comes to us and say we want to do in Centerville, we'll say, all right, well, no, because those conditions don't exist. And I think that we want to be consistent. We don't want to get sued. We don't want to look flighty, but like, I also think we have like a larger public purpose to like serve the unique communities in Fairfax. And like, if this is, I mean, and not to belittle, like I have been in those planning meetings, and like, they're so tedious, and you're doing good work. And so I want to say that like, yeah, that public input and these unique sites, and I'm not saying it needs to be top, I'm just saying like, just to counter that. Like, I think we do have the purview to make unique decisions on sites within Fairfax based on public input and studies.
I'll just say, unless you're very prescriptive in this zoning language, it allows for a massive amount of latitude.
Yeah, I'm talking more like our final approval when this comes to us.
I know, but if we comment now, we can help shape what those applications look like. It's a benefit that the ARB has, that you all come to us and seek our input because there's an HOD here. It's a pleasure to have county staff seeking this input, because what's ended up happening is we have an application show up that is adjacent to or within an HOD, and they are striking each other. And then we find out, oh, well, there was a comp plan revision done 5 years ago, and the ARB wasn't brought into the conversation. And I say this from experience dealing particularly with Reston and other communities where we've had that happen. And this is I think this is a byproduct of us asking DPD to be here at these meetings to say, hey, we're making changes to the zoning. We'd like the ARB's input, because eventually they will become those applications where they will be getting into the granular issues. So I guess as the vice chair, I'm saying, look at this language that Laura's given us, that the DPD has shared with us, and if you have observations, we should share them, because they will eventually alter applications that will come to us one day. Because you're right, there's going to be development here. It's going to happen. It's definitely growing there in Centerville, and we want to make sure that that's shared. We won't make the ultimate decision on what's in the final zoning document. It will be made at the actual process level, but I'd rather us have that say than the other instances. I just think of Reston and the development encroaching from the onto Lake Ann, and how much that was allowed in those areas, and the board members' shock about, I can't believe we can build that. They can build that there. We had no way. We got no say in it, and it wasn't. There's no one to blame other than we didn't have a voice in that process. No. But I've talked too long, and my board members are like, why are we re-electing this guy as a vice chair? So.
Okay, well, you all know where to find me. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here. And do I get to call meeting adjourned?
No, unfortunately not.
Well,
Thank you as well, both of you, for staying as well. This meeting went much longer than I think we had planned it to. Board and staff items? You ready, Ryan, Denise?
Yes.
Okay. Review and approval of the previous month's minutes from October 10th. Are there any changes on Ryan's wonderful minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to pay him accordingly. Ms. Mangum.
I move that the ARB approved the October 10th, 2025 meeting minutes and pay the clerk, Brian Johnson.
Second by Mr. Kalinsky. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Treasurer's report, we have a balance of $35,790.50 as of October 31st. Spooky.
Well, we haven't paid for Mr. Burns's ABT.
No, we have not yet. Any other caveats on that treasurer's report?
That's a good caveat, though.
No, yes, we do have a request from Mr. Burns coming in. All right. Oh,
He's there right now.
yeah, he's there right now.
Yeah.
It's right now.
Oh, fun.
Sipping mojitos. on
Maybe
the
he'll
beach.
tell us like a little presentation or something.
Administrative, discussion, updates of reports, update on the Board of Supervisor approval of the HOD property classifications. Denise, it's my understanding that that is going through to be approved.
It is done.
It is
It
done.
It's done. October
Fantastic.
14th. Yes, so that clears the way for the comments and then all of those property classifications to be incorporated into the new draft revised design guidelines for traceries to finish that and get those back to you all. So soon, they're coming. They're coming. That was a last hurdle that we had to get.
All right. The most exciting news, ARB administrator announcement.
Yes, okay, that is a very exciting news. And bear with me because I'm tired and I'm just going to read this. So I'm pleased to announce that Mary Catherine Bogard has accepted the Senior Planner ARB Administrator position. Mary Catherine has several years' experience in urban planning and historic preservation. She previously served as an urban planner for the City of Alexandria, focusing on historic resources. She also worked in the private sector as a project engineer overseeing the historic preservation trades in the Cannon House office building renewal project, which is the oldest congressional office building outside of the Capitol building. Most recently, she held a position as historic preservation specialist supporting the Old Georgetown Board, which is an advisory board to the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts. Mary Catherine holds a bachelor's degree in historical archaeology from James Madison and a master's of science in historic preservation from the University of Pennsylvania. And we're working through when her first day will be, but it is imminent.
Thankfully, we did make this our first.
I know her.
You know her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, we've had very nice reports about her, so we're very pleased to have her starting. So.
Excellent news. So happy for you, Denise.
Thank you. Yes.
Heritage Resource Branch promotion and internal reorganization
Yeah, so
announcements.
very quickly, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I wanted to let you all know that Stephanie Newman has been promoted into a Planner 3 position in our branch, and she is now the new liaison for the History Commission. And Laura has, her position description has been updated. She's no longer the liaison for the History Commission, but she will start to take on additional outreach and community engagement responsibilities. As you've seen her talent, where her talent lies, yes. So we're going to try to use that to our benefit and to the benefit
Run
of
a
all.
tight and efficient presentation. She could run a class to some of our applicants.
Yeah. And then.
Last, the other hiring announcement, the ACB branch chief announcement.
So Dr. Jeffrey Alvey will be joining Fairfax County Park Authority. Actually, he has joined. His first day was the 3rd.
He was supposed to be here today. He had a conflict, so I was gonna. Jason and I had invited him to be here, and he's both Rachel and I's former colleague at the ACHP.
Wow.
So we can speak to his quality.
So all these federal workers are coming to work for the Fairfax.
Yep. He is a fantastic addition because prior to the ACHP, he worked for the Missouri SHPO, and before that, he's been a professor and also has a background, a very great background in archaeology. So really great to bring in that kind of knowledge base. So very excited about
Oh,
that.
we were going to hear that you got promoted.
I thought that too.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Promotion. I was waiting to hear Denise is now made
I didn't want you to leave us. But
senior
also,
branch
like,
chief.
It's about
you know.
time.
No, but all good things, all good things for our branch, yes. Yeah.
All right. Anything? Okay, moving on to correspondence announcements, public input on RALAC. Ugh.
Yeah, so I did, we got an email from a citizen commenting on the potential proposal from LARCA for the solution for RELAC. LARCA had indicated that they were going to come here at this meeting in November for a workshop, and I think that citizen was anticipating this workshop happening. They did not file an application, so I went ahead and passed along the public input, and whenever LARCA comes back, hopefully I will remember to include that public input again in your package, so you have it.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Lorton Workhouse updates.
That was a letter that was also included in your packet. There is going to be a proffer condition amendment that's brought before the board. The PC hearing is scheduled for February. This is to update the hours of operation for the restaurant from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday, to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. from Sunday through Thursday, and 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. This change pertains to morning hours only for on-site restaurant operation for the ability to serve breakfast and beverages. So I think this has to do with the restaurant that we just saw the proposal for the,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other correspondence or announcements, or is that everything on the
That's
list?
it for now.
Old business nomination committee, ARB slate of candidates for officer positions 2026. We look to Mr. Kalinsky.
Nominations are in. Mr. Zellman for chair, Mr. Daniels for vice chair, and Ms. Mangum for treasurer.
Similar.
Anyone else want to nominate themselves? Not hearing any. We have a slate that will come up in December for vote. So, look for your campaign packages in the mail. Okay, any other old business, Denise?
The only thing that I would add, maybe this is new business or maybe this is reference, I just want to reiterate, we will send out the complete nomination in all of our files on the Old Reston Avenue, Sunset Hills. We'll provide that to you. So it'll be like you'll just get an email from me that says go to the Ignite folder if you're interested.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Well, John's not here. Is any new or other business? Steve? No. The shutdown's ended, so me and Ms. Mango are back at work, so yay. There you go.
And hopefully getting paid.
That hasn't happened yet. We'll see.
By November 25th.
Okay,
Anyway,
anyways,
it's fine.
that's neither here nor there. No new business, no other business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kalinsky, motion turns always in favor. All those in favor? Aye. That, Jason said it, and then he did.